Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special late night with Derek. It's Saturday night. Do you know where your children are? Welcome, everybody. How in hell is everybody doing? I thought that was going to be removed. Hold on a second. Let me add a Luma key. Okay, let me take the Luma Max. Oh, no, that doesn't look good. Luma Min? No. What? I thought this was going to work. I need like the reverse of this. Maybe I need to take the min down. There we go. Boom. Okay. Welcome. So today I'm stealing your thunder with this stream. Are you streaming right now? Are you? I didn't even know you were. Roll for combat. You do. All right, we're off to the races.
Thaddeus tipped $5. Spin that wheel.
So Thaddeus has tipped $5, and you'll notice that at the bottom we have $5 to spin the wheel. So the way this works is I have asked ChatGPT to create 150 random RPG, TTRPG, game design, Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings, all this other stuff. So what we're going to go ahead and do is
Make it tipped
tip
$5. Thank you for all you do, Derek. This is the absolutely best gaming community around. 10/10 would recommend to a friend who I like.
So this isn't a very fair system. So normally I'll go for at least like a minute or two, but if somebody comes in and tips $5, we're spinning the wheel again. We go to a new topic. Because we just started, we'll do Thaddeus for a few minutes, and then we'll do Mike's, and then after that point, if somebody tips and somebody else gets tips, sorry, you just get screwed out here. Can you start with a quick summary of Northern Reaches? Yeah, very quickly. Northern Reaches is a Pathfinder 2 game. It's played in a community. We have 90 players already signed up. We have 35 GMs, so it's about a 3-to-1 player to GM ratio. A lot of those GMs are players too, by the way, and you can be a player and a GM. We give you a lot of incentives to GM. You can win prizes, cash, and otherwise. But we all play in a communal world. GMs are free to build their own adventures and structure, but they work with existing. We have a GM council who helps guide your actions so that you're creating adventures that integrate into an ongoing emergent story. There's nothing hard coded here. It just kind of emerges from player actions, what they win, what they lose, what are some of the consequences, what do the players want to drive. We have an XP system that works in the sense that you can use the XP that you earn from your adventures and from role playing, which you can do offline in our Discord, to buy perks, but you don't level up with it. You level up automatically every 3 weeks. The campaign starts at 5, and every 3 weeks you gain a level automatically. So everyone is completely over leveled, or completely the same level at all times, which is great for GMs and great for players. So if you play every once in a while, you'll be the same level as everybody else. If you play all the time, you'll be the same level as everybody else. So if you want to level up and beat all the noobs, that's not going to work. Booth B says, I like this community too much to recommend my friends to join. So yeah, it's interesting. It's cool. And I mean, some people, are really going to enjoy it. So, all right. This is Thaddeus's topic, by the way. Oh, is random character creation better than point buy? By the way, I apologize. I'm eating my Ninja Creamy vanilla protein powder soft serve that I'm eating because I just came back from the gym. Is random character creation better than point buy? My gut instinct is to say yes. And the reason for it is because I play RPGs to discover what my character is and what my character is going to become. I don't want, you know me, I don't like builds. And obviously when you have a game that's very highly, controlled, random character creation creates certain problems. But even then, I would still rather it have random elements so that I don't have to sit down and, be forced to like build out my character. And in fact, one of my classic examples of this was we were playing Smith's campaign a long time ago, Pathfinder 2 campaign. I built a fighter and I wanted to be like a one-handed fighter who did grappling and used like a one-handed weapon. And he died at like level 2. So obviously I didn't get very far from it. And so then I was like, okay. So it's like, okay, well, you have to make a new character. And I went, okay. And then I went, holy shit, I can literally make the same exact character. And that was the character, quote unquote, I wanted to play. But it felt wrong to just build that character again. But then if I built anything else, I was like, I'm purposely playing something that I would rather not be playing. But I also couldn't bring myself to just build the same exact character again. And it actually like fucked with me like really hard. And like that campaign really, in fact, I might have like accidentally killed the campaign or something because it's, because I was like, I couldn't get past this problem. I was like, you guys are just gonna have to play on without me. I cannot function in this environment. But yeah, overall, I think it's better. And I also like that those once in a lifetime characters. I don't feel like everybody, sometimes I remember characters that rolled extremely well and they were like famous, and that's okay. Sometimes, very people are very different, and I love that, But yeah, so that's that was that one. I will technically this topic could come up again, but all right. Mike's $5. Absolutely rule of cool. Every time you're gonna get an 18. Of course you are. When is a homebrew too much? Well, that's a great question. We talk about this a lot. I wouldn't say that I am anti-homebrew. That being said, I do believe that I don't believe in the death of the author. I think that game designers create a game and it's there to be played. And I think that if you come in there with a hacksaw and a hammer and you start breaking it apart and ripping out chunks and pieces to the point where the game no longer resembles what the game is supposed to be, I think that you are doing too much. I also believe that a lot of people, when they homebrew, we've talked about this before, they Frankenstein the thing. They don't design it in an integrated way. They just stick on bits and pieces of stuff that they like and expect it to perform. They say, oh, I like this system from this game. I'm just going to bolt that on to this game. And I think that that is fundamentally a flawed approach. I think that the better homebrew systems are the ones that, touch all the different gears and all the different knobs and all the different levers of the game and respect that the game has a play pattern, that the game has a sort of natural evolution that goes through it. Overall, I think that, and that we were discussing today on the Discord about how if, is a game, like I like my games kind of like watches, right? Like where it's a complex instrument that can really be useful if used in the right way, but obviously it's very prone to being damaged. And some people felt like a game's resiliency was its strength. And I found that very strange, because if what makes a game good is that you can ignore the game's rules at your leisure, and frequently do, then what are we even doing here? I guess I don't know. It's like, it's a very strange set of circumstances that we find ourselves in when people say that we are playing a game, and then they're like, yeah, but we're playing this game, but we threw this, we changed this, and we're using this system from this system, and we added this, and we added this, and we added this, and you're like, isn't that terrible? And they're like, no, the system's so good, it's so robust, it can take all these changes. And I'm like, okay, so I guess the game wasn't really well designed then, you know? By the way, I'm going to keep going on this topic until it's either completely answered or, you know, we don't get another $5 to spin the wheel. And then the stream will probably be over. So this is how this is going to work. Yes, when an idiot creates it and it's a jumbled mess. I mean, that's most people. No offense. I mean, even when I create Homebrew, it's usually a jumbled mess and doesn't work. I like house rules, but generally dislike Homebrew. I think it's important to differentiate the two. Yes, I do think there's a difference between house rules and Homebrew, for sure. That being said, I don't even necessarily know that I like house rules per se, because, well, not because I have a problem with people house ruling. It's just that I feel so trapped by my house rules. I don't want to have to remember them. And so I'm kind of like, man, I wish I could just, you know, we'll make it up and it'll change next time and I don't have to worry about it. Would the alternative initiative variant rule in FU be considered Homebrew? Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely would be. Hey, Boothby!
Boothby tipped $5. Bored now.
That's the idea. Here we go. All right. Well, obviously, it did not like the it did not like the word tilde there. I believe that's supposed to say the fall of Numenor, Atlantis done right. Yeah. I mean, I think that the fall of Numenor, for those of you who, of course, like I said, this is I don't know what's on this list. ChatGPT created it, and I didn't look at it. I just added it to the wheel of names. So for those of you who don't know, Numenor was an island kingdom gifted to the men who supported the Valar in the War of Wrath against Melkor or Morgoth, and they had this island kingdom. They were the men of the West, right? Aragorn is of their lineage. They were these like incredibly powerful men, you know, not like elves, but they were long-lived. They had possessed great wisdom. They were all like 6'6". They were great sailors, warriors, craftsmen, statesmen. And they lived on this kind of like island kingdom that was very much, I think, supposed to be alluded to Atlantis. And then the idea is that Sauron went there and corrupted them. And they got it in their head that they should be able to sail west to Valinor, which was specifically the one place they were not allowed to sail. And as a result of trying to basically invade the Holy Land of Valinor, Eru Iluvatar, that's right, the one true creator god who otherwise has been absent throughout the history of Arda, sends a great catastrophe and destroys Numenor. He sinks it beneath the waves. And only one small band of Numenorians, those who were still loyal to the Valar and to Eru, but were basically sort of permitted to leave in a sort of Noah's Ark type way. And they sailed to the lands of Middle-earth where they land. And this, of course, was Isildur and Anarian's father, Elendil, who Aragorn is descended from. And he lands on Middle-earth and he says, "Here I will abide and my heirs until the ending of the world." And they formed two kingdoms, Arnor and Gondor, and blah, 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 blah. Is it Atlantis done right? I mean, it's basically, you know, the fall of, the fall of the kingdom was caused by their pride, by their hubris, by their desire to overcome the limitations of the Valar. And so in that respect, if the fall of Atlantis represents, you know, reaching too far and becoming and being cast down for your pride, then yeah, I think it's a very good thing. And of course, Tolkien wanted to explain the sort of similarity between real world. Oh, we got a super chat. Spin the wheel. Sorry, Numenor, you're out. I can't wait till we get a topic that I can't answer. Thanks, Rick. Boothby said, "Thanks, Rick." Another Lord of the Rings one. You guys are getting fucked now. By the way, there are like half of the wheel is TTRPG related. I think the other half of the wheel is like a thing. Okay. The Witch King, top tier villain or just a Nazgul with clout? Yeah, I mean, all the Nazgul are kind of mostly replaceable. And as a result of it, now that being said, there's only two that have names, right? The Witch King of Angmar, who doesn't really technically have a name. He's just called the Witch King of Angmar. And then there's Kamul, the Easterling, who is supposed to be a great sorcerer. Now, I will say this. The Witch King of... The rest of the Nazgul, they're all kind of replaceable. They don't really do anything. But the Witch King of Angmar did destroy the realm of Arnor. And assuming that, the War of Ring had happened the way that you were, because you got to think Sauron was working in a extremely long time span. So throughout the course of the Third Age, when you think about Arnor and Gondor, you did have this kingdom of men. And as a result of the actions of the Witch King and his witch realm of Angmar, he and his forces of orcs and trolls and whatnot destroyed the Northern Kingdom. And that's why when we get to the time of the War of the Ring, during the Lord of the Rings in the late Third Age, which most people are familiar about, the area around the Shire is essentially a depopulated, desolate land. And this is actually the setting for Free League's The One Ring second edition. So the first edition of One Ring was set east of the Misty Mountains in Rovanian, or called the Wildlands. But the second edition is set west of the Misty Mountains, and it is set in not Eregion, Eriador, which is this northwest Middle Earth, which used to be a thriving kingdom like Gondor, but has literally been struck down. You saw that in the first film with the ancient human fortress on top of Weathertop, which was called Amansul, and that used to be part of the Great Northern Kingdom. Again, you think Minas Tirith, you think all of those impressive structures. Well, that used to exist basically where the Shire was too, but the Witch King took them out. And as a result, had the War of the Ring actually occurred and there hadn't been a thing, if there hadn't been the whole, if the good guys hadn't cheated and the GM hadn't fudged and let the villain be destroyed by this pesky, stupid One Ring, I like to think that Sauron would have won. And a good reason I think he would have won is because there was no more Northern Kingdom. So, yeah, I think he is a top-tier villain. He also kills Theoden. He challenges Gandalf, which is a little sus. In the movie, they made it seem a little bit more like they were on the same level. But ultimately, the Nazgul was just a dude. Gandalf was a Maiar. I like it enough that I will listen to Lord of the Rings for now. Listen, I'll keep talking about the Nazgul and I'll keep talking about the Witch King until somebody else tips $5. What percentage of the wheel is Lord of the Rings rated? Probably like 15%, maybe 10%. Although, Colin, I am thinking of, I was checking out the Foundry One Ring second edition system today because, I really would like to, I would like to explore it. And now that I'm not working, I have the time to. Of course, the problem is I need good players, right? All right. Rick did tip $10, so another spin. No, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works, unfortunately. Yeah, overall, you have to remember that the Nazgul really aren't actually all that powerful per se. They mostly actually gain their strength from the fact that they basically can't die, and they have this like chilling fear effect. They're not really actually strong in any sort of reasonable way. If only there was a good community of people you could draw on. Listen, no, I'm living out my torchbearer. I'm living out my torchbearer dreams right now. I was kind of kidding. I was kind of joking, but the problem, Elia, is people have to be available to play. Case in point. One of the reasons I love our community is because a lot of people will talk about fanboying with Derek. Oh, Derek, your cult community. I did my torchbearer game. And, I could barely get 10 people for 2 games. And, 3 people have already dropped out. So
Scott tipped $5.
Here we go. Thank you, Scott. Oh, and D-Priest. All right. All right, we'll do Scots, and then we'll do D-Priests.
Prius tipped $5, and now for something completely different.
All right, the impact of milestone leveling versus XP-based progression in 5e. this is actually a topic that I kind of want to, well, it's not like this is unexpectedly not what I want to talk about, but it kind of relates to Dungeon World 2, which I'll eventually get to at some point. We may even do a stream on this. And a D Priest is saying, ooh, take my time. All right. Well, I mean, that's not the way the rules work, D Priest. I'm sorry. The long and the short of it is what gets rewarded gets repeated. And I've talked about this a million times. And if progression is an important part of the game, it always has been, and it always will be. As long as you have mechanics and progression, it's going to be an important part of the game. Now, for better or for worse, the games and the people's perceptions of the games have very quickly tended to focus on leveling up. I don't think this was originally what maybe Gary intended, but I think he knew what was going to happen. And I think very quickly people realized, like, I want to level up. And when you award experience points, you are essentially doing milestone-based leveling. You're just doing it in very, very small chunks. When you do milestone-based leveling, you're telling the players, this is what will reward you. This is what will advance you. And that means that the players know that if we make this progress, we will achieve this level. The problem with this comes when you have the milestone-based leveling where the GM doesn't really tell the players what they need to do. So let's take an example of this. If I tell, we're playing, let's say, some canned adventure, and I tell the players, every time you beat the next big bad evil guy in the string of endless big bad evil guys until we reach the final big bad evil guy, every time you beat a big bad evil guy, you guys will level up. So the players understand at a fundamental level, like, we know what we need to do. It doesn't matter if we go and fight 1,000 monsters. It doesn't matter if we go find 1,000,000 gold. It doesn't matter if we go and craft a bunch of stuff. The thing that is going to cause us to level up is to kill the next big bad evil guy in the line of big bad evil guys to the end. And while I don't love that, I at least appreciate that the players understand what is going to be rewarded. They know, basically, if you think about it from a job objective perspective, is that they know what they need to do to get a raise. Their manager has told them, right? If you land the next client, you will get a raise. All right. And then if you land another client after that, you will get a raise. I don't really care what you do in between. The only thing that matters is getting the next client. And so you go, okay, cool. At least I know what to work for. The problem I have is with milestone-based experiences, like when the GM thinks you're ready for a milestone and when the GM thinks you should level up. You guys have played a couple sessions and I don't know, I guess I'm feeling generous or I'm feeling bad or you had a rough session or that was a cool session. Here you go. Everybody gain a level. And I hate that because that's like your boss saying, I understand that you want a promotion in your raise and you're like, okay, great. Well, what can I do to work towards that? And they're like, you just gotta keep working at it. And you're like, okay, but can you give me some objectives, some clear direction? And the boss is like, no. And you're like, okay, well, I did all the things that I did last time that got me a raise. And this time it didn't get me a raise. So what gives? So while I don't necessarily have a problem with milestone, and I actually agree with Elia, who says that if you squint hard enough, all progression is milestone based. It is. It actually absolutely is. XP XP for treasure is a form of milestone-based experience. You're just doing it at a very, very, very discrete level. But ultimately, you're saying if you go and do these things, you will get experience points. And you can either make that very, very tiny and have lots of little individual things, or you could just do it in a mega way. Like you could have a treasure-based experience campaign where you say, every time you uncover, every time you recover a massive cache of treasure, a true treasure hoard, not just mere trinkles or a couple of, mere trinkets or a couple bags of gold, but a real treasure hoard, you will level up. I have just created a milestone-based experience system that uses treasure. But my players still understand if we want to level up, if we want to progress, then we need to find treasure. We need to find big treasure. And so that's going to guide our actions and that's going to steer our direction. What I hate is the GM has decided you have played long enough or have done enough stuff and you never really understood what you were doing or how you were doing it. And then here's a level. I hate that. That is terrible. All right. So that was Scott's. And now we're on to D Priest. Second edition had that as an optional rule, technically, but in first edition, it was definitely the de facto. Best practices for running a West Marches campaign. Oh, okay. Well, let's first talk definitions. By West Marches campaign, I assume that you mean you have one GM and that you have an open sandbox with a larger group of players who are going to schedule their games at sort of their initiative. I would say that one of the best practices that you need to do in order to have a West Marches campaign is you have to have a lot of rumors and places for the players to go that give them differing difficulty levels. I like mega dungeons, but I actually don't think that a mega dungeon is the most appropriate for a West Marches campaign. Although, actually taking that back, you could totally do a West Marches campaign just set in a mega dungeon. And to be fair, that's how Gary Gygax originally did it. But I'm saying if you want like the sandbox overworld stuff, because you want places that the players can go in, get in, do some stuff, and then get back to town. Because I think one of the main things that you have to worry about and you have to figure out with a West Marches campaign is how do you get the players back to town? Because if you have a rotating, cast of players, if Mike and Elia go into the dungeon on a Tuesday and then they end their session in the dungeon on Tuesday, and then come Friday, Elia can't play, but Mike is free again to play with Rule of Cool and Platinus, then what do? You don't want to tell Mike, sorry, you can't play. You're still stuck in the dungeon. And I think that is that is a big problem. And that's something that you have to manage. And I think one of the ways that you get around that, for me personally, is to really focus more on what Smith and I would call layers rather than like true dungeons. And a layer is somewhere between, 3 to 5 rooms, classic, maybe 5-room dungeon, maybe a 10-room dungeon, but it's something that the players could reasonably go in, do some stuff, and then get out and then go back to town, because you really want to encourage them to get back to town at the end of the session. That way you have you don't have this like time problem where people are stuck in the campaign. Now, of course, I could totally just tell Mike, hey, you can't play. You're still stuck in the campaign. But then that means that the next time he plays, he has to play with Elia. What if Elia's like not available for the next month? Secondly, one day in the real world should be one day in the campaign, even if nothing's happening. So if somebody doesn't play for a week or 2 weeks, well, 14 days have still passed. Don't try to like absolutely track all the players in their place in time and space. Generally speaking, I would try to avoid people getting too far ahead chronologically, because that's just going to create a nightmare of problems for you. But again, you also want to make sure that you're giving the players lots of hooks, lots of what we call points of interest, right? Lots of adventure sites. And you want to give them a ton of choices. If they don't know anything about your world, they're not going to be proactive. And the key to a West Marches campaign is player proactivity. The players are supposed to be the ones who are excited about going out, doing a dungeon. They're the ones who are excited about going out and doing an adventure, who are going to drive it, who are going to push it forward. I should also say that as sort of a fundamental level, this is also kind of one of the reasons why Treasure for XP works so well for West Marches style campaign, because there is this concept of high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward. But there's also this concept of low risk, high reward. See, when we associate leveling, we think about the idea that you're fighting monsters most of the time. And that means if you want to get more experience, you have to fight a harder monster. And that means that the dungeon and the experience or the adventure is necessarily harder. However, in a Treasure for XP system, there exists the idea of, I've heard of a rumor of an ancient vault that is said to contain a great deal of wealth and treasure, and no one has discovered it. What if we could go there and get that treasure? Not only would we get a lot of money, but we get a lot of XP. And you might go, oh, but it's going to be guarded by CR appropriate creatures. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. just because there's a good treasure, doesn't necessarily mean that it has to have, CR appropriate monsters guarding it. And so there's this idea that there are good dungeons in the sense that they're very high reward, low risk. And then there are very bad dungeons, very high risk, not that much reward. And I really think that it's that gradient, that texture that makes West Marches fun, because if every dungeon is essentially the same, if every, in the sense of like, hey, this is a level 2 dungeon with level 2 monsters with level 2 treasures. It's like, well, here's a level 3 dungeon with level 3 monsters, level 3 treasures. You don't get any of this ability to sort of find the good stuff. And a rumor or of a hidden treasure is actually exciting because it means that your characters might feel like they're getting away with something. And I think that is a very powerful motivator. And it is one that has really worked for me time and time and time and time again throughout the history of D&D. And I think in a West Marches campaign, it is extremely important. Well, that's kind of a more of a newer thing. Like arguably, that's what like Northern Reaches is. It's kind of a multi-GM West Marches campaign, but I do think that is not how it was originally designed. I mean, from that perspective. Was the class-specific charts in first edition? I know it was in second edition. I don't know. And in second edition, it was also optional. I don't remember if it was in first edition. Relative Dimension, you're probably right. I just very clearly remember it being in second edition. Canonize it. Every PC in the game world can spontaneously plane shift, which happens when they are absent and reappears back in town later. Weird magical anomaly that no one knows how to solve. I don't prefer to be that heavy-handed, but I think there are some different ways that you could certainly motivate players to get back to town. You could use carrots. You could also use sticks. In what ways would you go about communicating the risk reward of a dungeon? Well, you may not, necessarily. The players may have to do the legwork. They may have to explore it. They may have to find out the rumors. They may have to learn about the monsters that may inhabit there. They may have to use spells, divinations. D&D has a long history of, great divination magics. And, I know that in our campaigns, it was very common for me as a wizard to do like a scouting session where I would take like a bunch of clairaudiences, clairvoyances, arcane eyes, locate objects, and I would literally like pre-scout the dungeon to try to figure out like where was the good loot and what areas should we avoid and what areas should we focus on. And I understand that that's not what everybody wants out of a fantasy gaming experience. But if you're playing a game called Dungeons and Dragons, maybe you should, and if you're running a West Marches style campaign, then you should definitely probably lean into that. That's right, Kevin. There are a lot of tangents, 150 of them in total. And for $5, either a tip or a super chat, we will spin the wheel and we'll pick a new one. But in the meantime, we're going to keep talking about West Marches. And then, like I said, after if the topic, if I decided the topic is, done and over with and we don't have a new tip, well, that'll probably be the end of the stream. So that's how the rules work tonight. Better than a latte. Listen, that's the spirit, D Priest. That's the spirit. Platinum says, but the AP writer balanced all these fights for a certain level of party, and I don't want to ruin it. Yeah, I mean that is the case with an actual play, and you should definitely lean into that because that's why your players. That's why you've chosen to run that actual play. I mean, that's one of the things where too. It's like if you're gonna play an actual play, play it. Don't ruin it with stupid XP rules. I think that's one of the most insincere things that they did in Pathfinder 2 is put in those XP rules. Oh, Whoopelstein, $20. Filling out spreadsheets for Northern Reaches. So much fun. Well, $20 is also going to give us a new spin of the wheel. Whoopelstein, thanks again. Yeah, listen, buddy, it's you wanted a big season. You wanted a lot of success. You wanted to see your hard work pay off. Well, you're getting it, buddy. Here we go. Wolfenstein. Thank you, buddy. What are we even doing here? Are playbooks the ultimate form of class design? No, they are not. Now, playbooks, meaning like from Powered by the Apocalypse or that style, and the idea of a playbook, more so than anything else, is the idea that a class is not just about the abilities. It's not just about what you do. It's about why you're doing it, or what is your character's arc. So playbooks in themselves have an inherent play pattern built into them. And it's fundamentally about exploring, usually it's a trope or an idea that is common in a certain genre or fiction. Good night, Relative Dimension. And as a result of that, I think that they could be very, very, very cool. And they could lead to some of the best play experiences of all time. However, as I said before, I think that RPGs are ultimately about discovery. Now, I think PBTA and playbooks do a really good job of setting you up with a big question. It doesn't give you the answer. That's up for you to discover, which is cool. But that question is pretty hard-coded into the playbook. If you look at something like Masks or Avatar Legends, I mean, it is really hard-coded into the playbook. And while I think that could be very fun, I think it limits some of the replayability of the playbook. Playbooks don't necessarily have a ton of horizontal progression. They very rarely have much vertical progression. And so ultimately it can feel like it's a bit, feel like it's a bit of a downer because, you kind of feel like you're kind of locked in and priced in. Now, what I do think is really exciting and interesting, and technically this has been around since the beginning of Powered by the Apocalypse, is the idea that your game or your campaign should be viewed as a series of seasons. And Avatar takes this, literally you design a season. It's like 6 to 8 episodes, sessions. And one of the things that's important to understand is that playbooks are about your motivation and they're about your question that you're trying to ask or answer. And so they can change. And people people define their characters by their class. So the idea that your character would just, change their playbook because their character changed seems very anathema to people. And they're like, what do you mean? My class is what I am. That's like my high school degree and my college degree and my graduate degree and my work experience. And you're thinking about your class the way that you would think about skills and training, which is how most classes in D20 are presented. But playbooks are not about what you can do. They're about how you do it and why you do it. And that is something that very much could change throughout the course of numerous play sessions, especially over the course of multiple seasons. Look at a character like Buffy or a character from Buffy like Willow. Willow starts off as kind of the nerdy smart girl, but then she becomes a witch. And it's not just a question of her having different abilities. The things that are being asked of her, the question that you're trying to resolve with Willow becomes very different. And I understand Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a very old TV show now, so I apologize if you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But like the original Willow was looking for acceptance and, trying to, prove that she was, trying maybe dealing with some feelings of inferiority and maybe even some questions of like, her own self-worth. Willow the witch was really more of a question of, is she going to become corrupted by this magic? Is she going to be able to control the power that she has as being a very powerful witch? And of course, very famously, there was a period of time where she doesn't. And, in Avatar sense, we would say she definitely lost her balance. And I think that's really, 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 really cool. Like, so if we were playing Buffy the Vampire, if we were playing Monster of the Week, Avatar of the Week, Monster of the Week, you would have, Willow's witch playbook, and you have these, in the middle, you have balance, and her balance track on one side would probably be like power, And on the other respect, other side would be like control. And Willow is trying to find a balance between, she has threats. She needs to be powerful in order to deal with these literally apocalyptic threats, but she also needs to maintain control. But if she maintains too much control, will she be strong enough to defeat the foes? Will her friends suffer and die because she wasn't willing to give up control to embrace the power? On the other hand, if she embraces the power too much, will she lose control and become the very thing that she was trying to fight against? Is she going to tear someone's skin off? Turns out the answer is yes. Kevlar says, hi, bud. I'd legit like to get your opinion on the prescriptive character sheet of Pendragon versus the not prescriptive game, which is like almost all games. Refreshing or no? Well, Kevlar, unfortunately, tonight is the Wheel of Tangents. And since that didn't come from the tangent, I can't answer it. That being said, I'm not an expert on Pendragon, so I don't really want to answer it without, without a full, element of it. That being said, is Pendragon fully prescriptive? There's a lot of games that don't like it, but yes, fundamentally, I believe that a character, assuming you're talking about things like the virtues and the vices and the honor, I like that. I like when a character sheet sort of tells you how to play. Was that a star? And now you've become the very thing you're sword. No. That was actually accidental. I mean, I am a nerd and I do like Star Wars. Oh, I don't think I put Star Wars in there. I should have put Star Wars into the list here. Hold on a sec. Do we have this? Can I add more to this? Oh, I can't. Okay, hold on a sec. Hopping over to Chat GPT. Chat. Okay, let's hold on a sec. Give me. Is there any other topics that you guys want that I can add to the thing? I'm going to add Star Wars. Ooh, Star Trek. What else can we add? Early Final Fantasy games. Anything? Anyone? Bueller? All right. Ooh, yeah, Conan. All right. ChatGPT is coming up with 100 new ones. Oh, Farscape. Farscape is a sweet program. Ultima computer games. Favorite pizza? Well, Wolpelstein, you did super chat $20. But so I'll just answer that. My favorite pizza is I love a pan style pizza. I mean, I like the New York style pizza, but I like a pizza in a nice cast iron pan, get that real thick crust. Although I have come to really appreciate like Detroit style pizza and like a pub style pizza. I think those are very good. That being said, pan style pizza, pepperoni, red onion, and green pepper or banana pepper. Probably banana pepper. Pizza, pepperoni, and banana pepper and red onion would probably be my favorite. So yeah, but Detroit style, I do like a lot. We have, I don't know if it's around you guys. We have Jets around here, and it's greasy, and they have this thing called the All Corners pizza, and it's very decadent, but it is very good. I actually like deep dish pizza. I know some people don't like deep dish pizza. I like deep dish pizza. I like Giordano. Is it Giordano's? I'm trying to. It's like a chain, right? I don't know. I've had it in Chicago. I've had it in Vegas. I like it. St. Louis style can get fucked. I haven't even had it, and it sounds gross. So, the guy I play Mega Mech with says Zeppi's looks like the best pizza ever. Godfather's pan pizzas. Oh, I don't think I've ever had that before. All right. We got a new list here. Hold on a sec. All right, now we've got 200. 200 additional things that I'm adding to the list here. All right, now look at that thing. It's now huge. But remember, well, technically, I guess we lost the topic because I updated it. All right, we'll get a new. Well, this is a spin on the house. God knows what we're going to end up with now. What makes the Hyborian Age different from other fantasy worlds? Well, I think and I closed it on accident. I think in short, the answer is the Hyborian Age is it's not a good place, but it's also not super post-apocalyptic. Most fantasy settings are either post-apocalyptic or it's like high medieval fantasy. There's there's just safety everywhere. The Hyborian Age has probably more like real life. There are some small pockets of civilization, but most of the Hyborian map is uncontrolled wilderness. Even when things are sort of divided between nation states and sort of regional areas, it's still pretty dangerous. The other thing about the Hyborian Age is that it is unabashedly just a version of our modern day map. So like there's like, what is it called? Like Argus is very clearly just inspired by Greece, and Iranistan is very clearly inspired by Persia, Iran. Koth, Stygia is very clearly inspired by sort of like Egyptian pharaohs, death magic. So all of these, a lot of these countries, one of them, I don't know which one is it. Aquilonia is very much inspired by like medieval France. And so there's like a lot of very like on the nose analogs between like real world history, but kind of fantasized in a sort of version. Now, granted, there's also not a lot of magic in fact, magic is evil by and large across the Hyborian Age. There's almost no areas where magic is practiced. And that means that the Hyborian Age of Conan the Barbarian is very, very, very low magic. The only kind of spellcasters you have are either like evil necromancers who worship dark gods and, demons, or, very strange, weird hermit type people who kind of commune more with the spirits in a very more eclectic form of magic. John Stewart does have an excellent rant about pizza where he goes, and there, then, and inside of God and everyone, you put the sauce on top of the cheese, naked, like some sort of sauce whore. It is a really, really good rant. So I forgot about the chainmail bikinis. Yeah, I mean, there's the whole, Boris Vallejo art, and that's or Frank Frazetta, so there's that. It's pretty cool. I respect it. But yes, there are now 250 topics on the wheel. But yeah. All right. I accidentally closed that one, so I guess technically we get another one. These are all free. This is, what? We had a couple people tip $10 and $20, so these ones are for free. But then after that, this is it. It'll be midnight soon here. Best use of time travel in a sci-fi or fantasy story. Great question. Well, I understand it's fraught with inconsistencies. However, and I understand Marvel's or Avengers Endgame put a shit on it, but I love Back to the Future. And one of the things I love about Back to the Future is that, and I do have a second follow-up to this, by the way. What I do love about Back to the Future is that, they like literally, change things in the past, and that it, travels forward to the future. And so I love that, there's kind of some paradoxes there, like, right, Marty goes back in time and he has to get his parents together because they hit him with the car. And I absolutely just love Back to the Future. I love that. And it's full of Easter eggs, and I absolutely love it. Now, I said there's a caveat to that because I also love Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And my favorite thing about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is that they have a time machine, and at the end, when they're trying to break into the police department, he's like, they're sitting there and they're like, they need a distraction. And he's like, oh man, he's like, we need a distraction. And then he's like, what we need is he's like, wait a second. He's like, we have plenty of time. He's like, when? He's like, after the report. He's like, after we do this, we'll hop in our time machine. We'll come back to now, and we'll have placed a recorder that'll distract your dad so we can get pie. He's like, set a timer for 11:36. He's like, what am I gonna say? And then you hear like, hey dad. And then like he comes over there and it's a cassette player. And then when they're breaking out of jail, he goes, remember the trash can. And then a trash can falls out of nowhere and lands on his dad. But the best part is in the beginning of the film, the dad, the police chief, is looking for his keys, and he asks Ted, he says, do you know where my keys are? And he's like, sorry, Dad, I don't know. So he's being honest. He doesn't know where the keys are. His dad's like, did you steal my keys? And he didn't. But then at the end of the film, they're walking up to the police station, and he goes, what we need is my dad's keys. He's like, well, we could steal him, but he lost them a couple of days ago. And he goes, no, we can just go back in time to a couple of days ago when he had them. We can leave them for us here. So when we get here now, they're waiting for us. He's like, where should we put them? Behind that sign. So they walk up to the sign and they go, that way, when we get there now, they're here. And they are. And he goes, whoa, it was me who stole my dad's keys. And I absolutely love that. It's so good. It's so good. Okay. Roll for Combat says, FYI, Back to the Future is considered one of the best scripts ever written. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the 3 films. I know a lot of people say that the third one is weaker. Maybe, but I still think they're all really, really good. Okay. Bonus to this. There is a game. It's the follow-up. It's the sequel to Maniac Mansion. It's called Day of the Tentacle. And in Day of the Tentacle, you have the purple tentacle is taking over the world and the universe. And the three of the 3 people from Maniac Mansion get sent to the same house, but one is sent back in time and the other is set forward in the future, and one is in the present. And the person who gets sent back in time, it's like to Revolutionary War time period. And what you're able to do is you're able to, but you can send stuff to each other only that's like hand-sized through your temporal porta potties. And there's like an instance where like in the future, the girl needs to have a disguise to look like a tentacle monster. And there's an American flag flying outside of the door. So what you do in the game is you sneak into the tentacle's hospital wing. You steal not a blueprint, but you steal like a medical schematic of a tentacle. You flush it down the toilet to the guy who's back in Revolutionary Era time. Then you go to where you go to where the flag for the United States is being created, right? The Betsy Ross or whatever is working on the flag, and you swap out her plans for the American flag with this medical document for the tentacle monster. And so then it ripples forward in time that the United States flag is now a tentacle costume. And so then in the future, the girl is able to take the flag down and get a tentacle costume, disguise herself as a tentacle, and then sneak into the place. That's like one thing of many. It's kind of this crazy problem-solving issue. Maniac Mansion's a fantastic game, and Day of the Tentacle is even better. That's a classic LucasArts film, LucasArts adventure game. I loved absolutely all of them. Full Throttle, Monkey Island, Loom, Day of the Tentacle, all of them. They were all so good. Oh yeah, Loom is a banger. Those are games I would totally play on stream. So how would you do time related themes in TTRPGs? It's tough. The answer would be tough. I mean, the best way to do it is through flashbacks and use Blaze in the Dark style flashbacks. But time travel is really tough to do in TTRPGs, I think. To do it well, anyways. I mean, you could easily do TTRPGs where it's like, you travel back in time, but it's not really traveling back in time. You're kind of just, doing, that in that respect. But, yeah, Fiasco uses flashbacks well too. Yeah, for example, one of my favorite Fiasco games of all time, the first scene started off with my character blowing his brains out. And and I still got to play for the rest of the Fiasco game because everything with my character was a flashback, and we were sort of like catching up to the moment where my character kills myself. And so it kind of became like a challenge for the group to like figure out how we got to this point where my character blew his brains out. And that was a high level, expert level Fiasco game for sure. Edge of Tomorrow is pretty good. Although didn't they rename it Live Die Repeat? Or was that originally its name, Live Die Repeat, and then they renamed it Edge of Tomorrow? Scotty P coming in with another $5.
Scott tipped $5. Time for a new topic.
Spinning the wheel. It's been a long time since we've said that, huh? Spin the wheel. Well, I mean, this is a giveaway. I mean, this is an easy one. I mean, favorite fictional language and why? I mean, I'm sure chat already knows the answer to this, of course. See if we're waiting for this. Oh yeah, King's Quest, Space Quest, Police Quest. My mom used to play that. All right, what about my second favorite then? All right, I'm gonna cheat. Rule of cool. So my favorite fictional language is Sindarin, which is the more common My second favorite fictional language is Quenya, which is High Elven for Lord of the Rings. Okay, so all right, outside of Lord of the Rings, outside of Sindarin and Quenya, boo. Runeford Tabletop Gaming says boo. Let me think about that. You know what? I love Valyrian from Game of Thrones. I think it sounds cool. It sounds appropriate. I think they did such a good job speaking it. Especially Dany. I'm trying to remember the actress's name. What's her name? Emilia Clarke. She was just she was incredible at it. I mean, I was a big Dany fan, and I hated what they did to her. I know why they did it to her, and I would have been okay with her doing what they did to her if they'd done it better, but they didn't, and I thought it was stupid. And obviously, I absolutely hate everything in season 7, and I pretty much hate everything in season 6. Season 8 is not even. It's just so bad. It's not even on the radar. But I didn't even really like season 6 or 7 that much. Season 6 was okay, but 7 was not good either, I don't think. And 8 was terrible. But one of my favorite scenes in the whole show is when Dany goes to Astapor, I think, maybe, and right with Master Krasnus, and she buys the Unsullied, and the whole episode, he's shit talking her in Valyrian, and Missandei's like translating and trying to be sweet about it, and at the end, she gives him the dragon, and then he's bitching about how the dragon won't listen to him, and then she responds in perfect Valyrian, and he's like, you speak, he goes, Va ji Valyrie? Do you speak Valyrian? And she goes, my name is Daenerys Stormborn of House Valyrian, of old blood of Valyrian. Valyrian is my mother tongue. And, and then he's like, kill her. And he's like, Dracarys, and burns him, kills him. That is like one of my favorite scenes of a television show of all times. That episode is top notch. And it's one of the coolest things of using the language as as sort of an element within the game. But yeah, So I really liked Valyrian from Game of Thrones. Do the Fremen count? Yeah, I don't think that I heard the language enough in the, you know, in the new film, because like they don't, you know, they have words in Chicopsa, but like the book doesn't really get into like it too much, and they don't like really have long passages in Chicopsa, so which is what they speak, or it's like a form of Chicopsa. So, I love how we still came back to Lord of the Rings. Listen, it said favorite fictional language and why. This was general. And yet you say my name with a S instead of a K. I say Kalana. Don't I say Kalana? I think other people say Solana. I say Kalana. Language is really tough in TTRPGs because being able to communicate properly is very important. And it's the same reason why in TTRPGs I avoid. It's tough. It really, you know, it really is tough because it doesn't make sense that, like, I'll give you an example. Torchbearer is pretty about good about this. Like in Torchbearer, if you don't speak a creature's language, you cannot engage in a like convince argument with them or convince conflict with them. And the default assumption is that you don't speak their language. And so in some ways that really limits what you're able to do. But remember, in Torchbearer, you know, talking to people and convincing people is way better than trying to kill them. And so talking to people is a distinct advantage. But I like for players to have that kind of, you know, I don't know, option, an edge. And I like reaction rolls in fantasy games. And so if the group comes across a group of goblins or hobgoblins and I roll in the reaction table and they're neutral, maybe they're looking for an ally, maybe they have a bigger problem and they want to enlist the PC's help. If they don't speak a mutual language, then that cool chance for an encounter that isn't just a fight is lost. And not to mention, I have to sit there and be like, you know, Briark, you know, no, like it's terrible. You know, instead you do the broken common and you try to communicate as best as you can in your sort of broken language. And you know, it is tacked on as an afterthought, especially, I think. Yeah, the aliens, the thing that was weird about the aliens in the Arrival is not that they could speak language, it's that they had like the biological ability to shoot out letters in their language or shoot out words in their language. Like, why do they have that ability? That's crazy. Okay, there is a specific reason. Okay, number one, because Smith called you Alia, and so I just called you Alia. But there is, and here's the thing: is it doesn't. That's the number one main reason. But the other thing is I shouldn't have named you that because there is a Jedi named Aayla Secura, and Aayla Secura, but she spells hers. I think it's Aayla. Yeah, it's Aayla. And one of my ex-girlfriends really loved her. She was a Twi'lek Jedi, played by Amy Allen, who we met like twice at like Star Wars Celebration, and but then you have an E, and that makes it, and that confused me. So that's my other thing. All right, what other fantasy fictional languages do I like? Or just favorite fictional languages in general. Not a big fan of most of the languages from Star Wars. Star Trek's okay. I tried to learn Klingon when I was a kid. Didn't get too far with that. All right, well, there we go. I like Valyrian, I like Quenya, and I like Sindarin. Those would be my favorite. All right. Well, roll for combat, confirming that they did rename it Live, Die, Repeat. All right. If there's no other questions. Oh, Temba, his arms wide open. I do want to get this shirt. Platinus is buying us time here. let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. I want to get this. Why are you? Why do they do this? Let me see if I can find this here. Here we go. I really want to get the I really want to get this shirt. Darmok and Jalad live at Tanagra. Stardate 45047.2. Shaka when the walls fell. I absolutely love this. Absolutely love this shirt. Oh hey, yeah, happy Easter. We're doing the it's gonna be a weird Easter. First Easter without my dad. You know, holidays were like one of the main times I would see my dad, and actually like really spend, you know, a good chunk of time with him. So it'll be weird for sure. When the 501st was finally rotated out of Felucia, Ayla Sakura made a point of seeing us off personally, calling us the bravest soldiers she'd ever seen. Hey!
Lollipop Candy tipped $5. Pay to win stream. Spin, spin, spin.
There we go. Lollipop. Oh, yeah, they were just talking in memes. Exactly. 100%. All right, here comes. What kind of a question is this? How to make GURPS more accessible to new players. Jesus Christ. Why? Yes. Why would you? Stop calling. Mind blown. That is it.
Strong.
What's up, Tim? Nice to have you here, buddy. Keith says, please respin. All right, we're going to respin. The answer is don't play GURPS. That's what you get when, you know, you don't vet the questions. Why Final Fantasy VI's World of Ruin was a genre breakthrough. This list came from ChatGPT, Lance. I just asked it to create me a list of 250 nerd-related topics, spanning a wide range of things. Well, so the answer is because you had never really lost before. And whether you want to admit it or not, you lose Final Fantasy VI. I mean, Kefka wins. I mean, he kills a lot of people. He breaks the world. He destroys the world. So he wins. If arguably the second part of the adventure is just you kind of getting revenge on Kefka because Boopy, that's why you got to get the Ninja Creamy, buddy. Look at that. I just downed 3 scoops of protein. Okay, that's 90 or 75, well, it's like 78 grams, plus the Fairlife milk in here. Probably is like a 90-gram protein. And it was like a pint and a half of ice cream. And it was only like, 400 calories. So that's why you need to get with it. Yeah, exactly. Kefka won. I mean, it was the Avengers Affinity War ending of its time. I mean, I thought Final Fantasy, when Final Fantasy 2 came out, Final Fantasy 4 in Japan, but I had played other JRPGs, and it was crazy because you start off and like Cecil's the bad guy. Like he's working for the Dark Knights, or he's working for Baron. He's a Dark Knight. The opening cinematic, if you want to call it that, is you guys busting into Massidia and beating people up and taking their crystal. Then you go to Mist and you kill the villagers. So you're starting off, you're like, oh my god, you're a bad guy. And but then in Final Fantasy 6 or 3, as it's we knew it back then, you're like, holy crap, Kefka won. And it starts off and your party is nowhere to be found. And you don't even have to go. You might not ever see some of your party members again, unless you're like a hardcore, diehard, completionist, right? You kind of start off with Locke and, you might not ever find them. So for all you know, they're dead. And of course, obviously the beam of ruin or whatever it's called, the thing of, whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called, but his beam, he kills a lot of people and the world is broken. And so you lose, and that's tough. I mean, that was definitely a genre breakthrough, because up until that point, you were always just the big bad hero, the big damn hero. You always save the day, and nothing really got happen. I mean, even in Final Fantasy 1, when you win the game, you basically because you stop the time loop forever happening, nobody even knows that anything bad happened. Derek is buff now. Well, not quite, Keith. We got a long way to go. But now that I am not working, I definitely have no excuses to not be in the gym. So I go I'm going to the gym basically every day to play racquetball or walk on the treadmill or whatever. But I lift 3 days and then I take a day off, and then I lift 3 days and I take a day off, and then I lift 3 days and I take a day off. Kalana is performing the opera. I believe this is from the opera. Nothing beats the sound of 1,000 voices screaming in unison. Kefka was undoubtedly, one of the most hardcore villains. But the only thing I didn't like about Kefka was he was just mad. He was just insane. He didn't, the good villains are the ones where you're like, I kind of get their point. I sort of see what they were going for. Like when you can see yourself in the villain, that's pretty cool. Keith says, can we go back to GURPS? Sure, we can go back to GURPS. But but the funny thing about it is, the Emperor was a good, which is why, well, spoiler alert, when Kefka kills the Emperor, it's like, what? I thought that was the main villain. I thought this Kefka guy was just this crazy jester. And it turns out he's actually the most powerful Magic Knight, and he was the original basis, and he was the experiment gone wrong, and blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't, super clear that that's what was happening at the time. But I have a lot of hot takes, and a lot of times what everyone's favorites are is not my favorite. So I like Return of the Jedi better than Empire Strikes Back. Blasphemy, I know. I like Final Fantasy 4, aka Final Fantasy 2, better than Final Fantasy 6, aka 3. And in fact, I hate Final Fantasy 10 so much. I can't stand that game. So when a lot of things are So while I do like Final Fantasy 6, it is not my favorite Final Fantasy. Kevlar says blasphemy. A lot of my thoughts and opinions are blasphemous, Kevlar. Derek, racquetball is fun. Do you have your own racket? If so, can you show us? I think it's downstairs. I'd have to go get it. I have several rackets, Keith. No way is Final Fantasy 8 your favorite Final Fantasy. There's no way that is your favorite final. I respect you so much for picking such a not anybody's favorite ever. Squall is the least likable or interesting main character of all time. That's a hot take. That's definitely a hot take. Least favorite. Least favorite. All right, well, I can buy that. That I can buy. Okay, that I can buy with. Just don't pickleball, please. Just don't. I don't play pickleball yet, Kevlar, but it's popular, and I know a couple people who play, and I've got time to kill. So plus, at some point I won't be able to play racquetball. I'll be or tennis. I'll be too old and too tired. All right. It is a very noisy game. It took me 30 years to complete Final Fantasy 1. Okay, well, that's just crazy. This is about Final Fantasy, I guess, so it's kind of related, but I'm going to play Final Fantasy on this channel. So I finally created a Twitch account. Yes, I now have a Twitch account. You can go follow me before I'm cool. Twitch.tv/Knights of Last Call, maybe. I think. And I think that's my thing here. Yeah. So if you go to twitch.tv/Knights of Last Call, you too can follow us there. And I have 12 followers already. Sick. But I'm going to be playing Final Fantasy. And if it's even remotely successful, which it may not be, but that's okay. I just want to play it anyways. Maybe we'll do some other games, like classic JRPGs, replay Dragon Warrior. Maybe we could do other Final Fantasies. We could do Dragon Warrior games. We could do maybe some classic SSI games like Eye of the Beholder, Eye of the Beholder 2, Dungeon Hack, stuff like that. We could have fun with it. Well, follow Derek before it's cool is any time, because I will never be cool. So technically, if you follow at any time, I won't be cool. Ultima 7, sure. Yeah, I don't need to be successful to do something. That is absolutely true. All right. Well, it's midnight. Happy Easter, everybody. I haven't decided, Jackal, because I don't really see the value in simul streaming on my Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays and Thursday streams are still going to be what we do about it. And I just don't see the value of being on Twitch. I guess I could, but I kind of want my Twitch stream to be, video game related, even though I know that so much of Twitch isn't video game related anymore, but I'm a purist and I have some respect for that. So, but, yeah, I mean, the other thing is too, in full transparency with you, my lovely audience, is a lot. Again, this is nothing that people have been telling me for a long time. Derek, get on Twitch, simulcast on Twitch, and get partnered, and then I can give you my Twitch Prime sub every month, because I don't give it to anybody, and it's just going to waste. And I normally was like, I don't really care. Well, now I kind of care, because now if a couple hundred people give me their Twitch Prime sub each month, that's $400 or $500, and I could that'll cover some of my or most of my like health care premium that I'm now going to have to buy on my own. So. Here's a question maybe text of Alien, Aliens, or both, and why. Aliens, I don't really like Alien. Aliens is an action film. Alien is a horror film. I don't like horror films. I like action films. Therefore, I like Aliens more than I like Alien. All right. Well, it sounds like we're done. I'm going to keep this wheel because this is a fun way to just spend an hour or two on a random Saturday night. I probably won't stream tomorrow night. But again, time has no meaning for me, and I have nothing to do but this. And you know who I feel most sorry for? For you, because I already have people going, God, Derek, you streamed like 9 hours this week. I can't keep up. Well, that's okay. You don't need to keep up, but I have nothing to do now except work out, work on the channel, take care of my dogs, contemplate my navel. Think about it. Think about the power of a man who has no kids, is single, doesn't care about dating, has no job. I mean, that the potential here, unstoppable. It's crazy. Ergo, why there may be pickleball in my future. Yeah, absolutely no problem. I'm glad you were able to hop in and hang out with us, Kev. That was fun. I do have pets. I have 4 dogs. I have 2 dogs and 2 fosters. need to get the Fosters adopted for sure. You know, and the summer's coming up. I'm going to be going to PAX with Steven from Roll for Combat and Mark. I'm going to be helping them run their booth. I've even got Roll for Combat shirts that I'm going to be rocking. So I'm going to PAX next month. Steven's hooking me up with some digs and a badge. So that'll be fun. That's May. And then in June, I have Origins Game Fair with me, Bob, and a bunch of patrons are going to be at. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And then in theory, I do have a badge for Gen Con. Still trying to figure that out exactly because I really can't afford a hotel room. But last year I crashed with Steven on his couch in his Airbnb. So maybe I can do that again this year. You know, you would think I was doing the good work with the pups, the good karma, but so far it has been nothing but kicks in the nuts. Because since I took in the dogs, my dad died, I lost my job, and I had to take one of the Fosters to the emergency room. So, and it cost me $1,500. So, oh, and my water tank exploded. So far, batting 0. But you know what? Maybe it'll all come back in the end. Origins is going to be a lot of fun. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, how I want to do it. It's kind of like it's weird because on one hand, it's a vacation and I like just being able to like relax and chill and just vibe and just be in a space, be in a safe space, right? Where everybody's a gamer and everybody's excited about games. But on the other hand, it's like, well, people come there to game and people come there to play games. And so it's kind of this weird, mix that I've had. So yeah, fantastic. Now I have plenty of time to play Crusader Kings 3. Well, that's a whole separate issue. Like we do something like that, but yeah, I mean, I'm hopefully going to be able to use the time, to engage in some pursuits and maybe do some stuff with this channel that I haven't been able to do before. And who knows, maybe Project Shadow Deep will actually become a thing. And who knows, maybe I will try to do a, $100,000 Shadow Dark Kickstarter. We'll see. Doing a project like that is very scary. Not because I'm not confident in it. It's just that the idea that I would produce something that like isn't perfect is very unappealing to me. There you go. Good morning, River. Glad to have you on here. Happy Easter. Well, River, we're gonna be doing more late night streams for sure. Exactly. Well, I will say one of the things that has held us actually, who's here? Probably mostly patrons. 50 people. All right. Even if you're not a patron, actually, this is great to ask you. It's great to ask my patrons. It's great to ask everybody. Okay. Which is this. One of the reasons that we were held back in the past from, there was many reasons. One of them, me and my perfectionism. But one of the things that we really wanted to do with our Patreon was to create monthly content. We produced a handful of essentially PDFs, zines, that were focused mostly around Pathfinder 2. And there was supposed to be a third one. Originally it was called Battle Cry. And it ended up withering on the vine. And then I kind of got, kicked off of my own publishing because I was the person who was delaying everything because I owed. What was I supposed to do? What was the article that everybody was like, oh man, I don't even remember what the article was now that I was supposed to write. Was it something with ancestries? Knowledge checks in Pathfinder 2nd edition. Thank you, Lollipop. Thank you. Self-confessed cynic says, rip. Technically it's Australian $2, so it's not technically value of owing. What's up, Vin? Happy Easter, buddy. Yeah, we were gonna redo Recall Knowledge, and we were gonna sort of rebuild the system so that it integrated with Pathfinder 2nd edition, but wasn't so absolutely fucking horrible. Although they kind of did do that in the remaster a little bit. But what I wanted to say was that one of the things that was holding us back was, aside from me, was two things. One, none of us knew how to use InDesign. And we were using basically markup language to make the production. By that, I mean Smith. And that was very slow. And that was very slow going. So one of the things that I've wanted to do is learn how to do InDesign. And as a result, one of the things that has come up was that I wanted to hold on a sec, somebody just sent me a message. Sorry. We have so many new patrons, and I want to make sure that they're all getting what they need. All right. So what I was saying, InDesign. So now that I have time, I finally have time to learn InDesign, and so I can actually use it to produce stuff. But the other problem that we had, and this is where you all enter the picture, is at the time, we were essentially a Pathfinder 2 channel. Now, we, the Knights of Last Call, weren't a Pathfinder 2 group. We played Pathfinder 2, and at that time, we were playing a lot of Pathfinder 2, but we've always been, a variety of gamers for a very, very long time. But our channel was Pathfinder 2. We were playing Pathfinder 2. We were talking about Pathfinder 2, and our community was Pathfinder 2 based. So it made sense to produce something like a Battlecry article about Pathfinder 2 because, that was going to have the most impact to our viewer base, to our patron base, and be of the most value. Well, I got kicked off of my own publication, and I should point out that it never did get published because even without me on there, it turns out that other people were busy too. So not wave my finger at you. However, now that Smith is sort of semi-retired from the channel until he decides to come back, and with other people having other knights having other obligations, but now I have a lot of time. I'm in a position where if I can learn InDesign and I have the time, I can actually maybe get something done. But this raises the question: what do I make that can now be of value to the Knights of Last Call Patreon? Because now the Knights of Last Call Patreon, one of the disadvantages that I have about my community is that this is a community that plays a wide variety of games, that is interested in a variety of games, sometimes juggling numerous games. These are people who like to experiment, to homebrew, to theorize. And as a result, I can't just say, I'm going to make Pathfinder 2 content. Like, say, 99% of content creators out there who are like, I'm a 5e channel. I'm a Pathfinder 2 channel. I'm going to create a Pathfinder 2 thing. I'm going to create 5e related content. You're going to be able to use it for your 5e game. I'm a Shadow Dark channel. I don't think those exist yet, but in theory. If I go and make, say, a dungeon and publish it, great. But you're like, but I don't play any RPGs I don't even play any medieval fantasy type RPGs. I'm playing Free League's Alien, and I'm playing, 7th Sea. And so I'm like, okay, so I feel like when I design something, I am only going to be appealing to 10% of my Patreon audience. And again, full disclosure, one of the things that I would like, a lot of people will have joined my Patreon, and that's awesome. And a lot of people get a lot of value out of being part of the Patreon, which is awesome. But for a lot of people, many people, they won't join a Patreon unless they're getting something, right? Some sort of monthly product. And as a result, one of my hopes is that if we could actually produce something that people would find valuable, that we could get a bunch of people who might join, if for no other reason than to get this monthly zine, if you will. And that was never really a concern of mine because I didn't need the money. I didn't care if the Patreon was successful or not. You know, once the Patreon was paying for the studio rent, I was, you know, happy, right? Because that meant at least I wasn't losing money. But the studio went away almost a year ago, actually a year ago, basically. And as a result, you know, I was making some money. In fact, I had to pay taxes this year. It was kind of tilting. But now I'm reliant on that money. And so now the idea of getting, I don't know, you know, an extra 100 patrons or something like that, an extra 200 patrons at $10 a month, well, that's an extra $1,000 minus fees and all that other stuff. So much less than that. But that's money that I need now to live to replace my job income, which I lost. But I'm like, but how do I create something that is valuable to maybe not everyone in my audience, but like 80%? And, you know, you know, Kevlar, you know, you're, I'm not pooping on you, but, you know, NPC names, ship names, magic item names. My thought process here is, number one, there's a lot of things that do that already. And number two, you know, as I've highlighted before, and I know some people have opinions about using this, trust me, ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever has got you covered if you need random ship names or random magic item names. So, you know, I'm like one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to just make something to make something. I want to make something because it's going to provide real intrinsic value. And Vin asking, will you finally be willing to accept staff who will work pro bono? Ask me into like a couple months when when my severance, when I no longer have a severance and when I'm paying probably like $700 a month out of pocket for my health insurance. And I'm looking at my bank account and I'm going, you know. Well, the other thing here, D Priest, is I hear what you're saying and I see that and I think, yeah, but wouldn't that be better or cooler as a live stream, right? Where I could actually have a real face-to-face conversation with somebody, where we could have chat, asking questions, interacting. And, you know, so there's a lot of things where I go, the publishing thing, the published thing is cool, but a lot of the ideas that I would have, which is like what you just mentioned, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather have a live stream. I'd rather talk about it. Than, you know, if I'm going to print something or publish something, I want it to be something that is of its best value in the written word, right? In the printed word. You can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not, but, and so, you know, this is the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because this kind of comes full circle back to, Project Shadowdeep, right? Which again started as me making a joke in Steven Glicker's, Roll for Combat stream and, about dungeons being cooler than hex crawls. And I would prove it. And then someone's like, you should prove it. And even the name Shadowdeep was a joke because Smith used to talk about how like all you need to do to make something successful is throw the word shadow or dark in it. And Kelsey did both. And that's why her, you know, game was so successful. And then we did the Shadow Dark stream and just to kind of show how I would outline a mega dungeon. I never really intended to build it. But even as I contemplate building it, because I did get some pretty good feedback from people and a lot of people were like, yeah, I would kickstart that. I would back that. That'd be cool. And I was like, oh, really? Wow. Okay. But I'm like, okay, but how many members of my audience care about Shadow Dark or dungeons or a mega dungeon? And the answer is, in my personal opinion, not that many, like less than 10%. So it's one of those things that I struggle with because I want it to be, you know, I want it to be useful to at least a majority of people, you know? Hey, what's up, Nakia? Haven't been able to watch the live stream in a while. I know I haven't seen you. Well, I'm glad you did stop by. Wanted to show you some support and tell you my favorite is when you were teaching GM principles. Heart. Yeah, I mean, GM principles obviously are historically, I think, our best videos and also our worst performing videos. So that makes total sense. But you know, also too, I mean, at this point, you know, I've been talking about GM advice for, you know, 3-4 years now. I mean, I've covered a lot of ground. And I also don't want to just start, you know, rehashing stuff that we've already talked about. I mean, if there's new areas or things that people need to understand. And one of the reasons that our streams have become more niche is because I feel like we've already kind of hit a lot of the low-hanging fruit. But maybe we need to go back and maybe we need to revisit some of those earlier concepts. I don't know. But thank you so much, Nakia, and I'm glad you stopped by. Again, I haven't seen you in a while, and awesome that you did. Technically, that's a spin, but have I ever looked at the Arcadia magazines that MCDM produces? I've been a patron of his for like over a year or 2 years. I think 2 years. And if they're part of the Patreon package, no, I've never looked at that. Maybe something like that, but more system agnostic or sections geared towards system families, OSR, PBTA, F20. Right, but yeah, I mean, doing things that are when people say something system agnostic, what they usually mean is it's D20 agnostic or it's fantasy, trad fantasy agnostic. They don't actually mean it's agnostic, you know? Thaddeus, it's not a bad idea. Make articles out of each stream. Some people don't have the desire or stamina to make it through a 3 to 4 hour stream on a topic that they want to learn about. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Now, Thaddeus, to counter that, one of my ideas, now that I have time, is to take my streams. Okay. A lot of people said for years I should edit them down, but I think editing down a 2 hour stream is going to be terrible. Is what I want to do is take my 2 hour stream or my 3 hour stream and boil it down to its core essence, write a script that is 8 to 12 minutes long, film a new video, and instead of all the fun tangent, reading chat, or, going off on a side tangent, or, all these other, or parts where I'm actually having to sit there and think, and maybe there's a lot of ums and ahs and me going, I don't know, or me spinning around and getting book off my shelf, getting rid of all that and just having a nice, tightly scripted, video like everybody else does, and taking that idea and boiling it down to a 10 or 12 minute video and recording it and putting it out as a video. And so instead of having to watch the 3 hour Dust Shine's like, wait, speaking of tangents, are we not spinning the wheel for Nakia's super chat? Fine. I wasn't going to do it, but you guys are pointing a gun at my head. All right, here we go. I was going to end the stream, but technically you are right. That wasn't super. Wait, we already did this one. All right. Wait. What are the odds that we would get the same one? That's crazy. Very low. What makes Call of Cthulhu's sanity system so iconic? Well, here's the thing. If you had said what makes Call of Cthulhu's luck system so iconic, I would agree with you. Okay. What makes Call of Cthulhu's sanity system so iconic? Well, to put it bluntly, it was probably the first game, and certainly the largest game to this day, that is your character's kind of fucked. And you're going to lose sanity. There's like no way to play the game and not lose sanity. And your ability to regain sanity is very, very difficult, and it's very, very slow. And it is definitely a part of your character's progression is moving towards death, essentially. Except death is the better outcome, right? You're not, Kevlar said it best. You're not going to win this game. So Call of Cthulhu is not just a character. We talk about playbooks having a defined arc. Call of Cthulhu is not a question of will your character survive. It is a question of how long. And you are not going to get a simple raise dead, and you are not going to simply be able to waltz through it. The very act of engaging with the game destroys your character. And that is a very, very, very bleak, horrifying concept, which really underlines the game's core premise. So Call of Cthulhu is very much a game that cares about what it is. And the sanity system, along with the I think the luck system is, I think, a really good pairing of those two things. And as a result of that, it creates this experience, which a lot of people to this day, even Call of Cthulhu, for all, it's a D100 system. It's old. It's about H.P. Lovecraft and, crazy old pulp horror stories that nobody fucking reads anymore. But yet it is like the number 4 largest RPG system in the world. And that, honestly, and I'm like in this industry, I guess, whatever the fuck that means, that boggles my mind, because like we have just never played it because I don't have an interest in almost any of those things. And so it's very, very interesting that system, it talks about why is it so iconic, because it somehow is strong enough to propel this game. And it's so different, you can say what you want, but it is, Call of Cthulhu is, you could say, well, Pathfinder and D&D 5e are so different. No, not really. But like, even like Warhammer Fantasy role-playing is still kind of like D&D in its own way. All these games are, but Call of Cthulhu is not, in a very, very big and meaningful way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately what makes it so iconic is that it defines the game, in that your character, should they somehow survive bodily, which is saying a lot, is not going to survive the horrors that they are confronted with. And that is fundamentally the premise of the Cthulhu mythos. It's the premise that H.P. Lovecraft was written, that these are secrets that man was not meant to know, And as a result, that is reflected in the system, which I think is pretty cool. Now, that's the reason why I don't like to play it, because that's not an interesting premise for me, but yeah. Yes, well, listen, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it raw. That's what makes it visceral. Neander says, I gotta say, the Wheel of Tangents is a genius content idea. And like all of my good ideas, it wasn't my idea. It was Ryan's from a Patreon. Well, thanks, Ryan. I think some of the tangents you take during the streams are very important to how valuable the streams are. Well, look, I'm not saying we're going to get rid of the streams, Thaddeus. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of them. If people want to sit down and watch or listen to the 3 or 4 hour stream on hopefully at least 1.5x speed, more power to you. And I hope you do get value and fun and entertainment and education. Those are the hallmarks of the Night's Last Call. And I hope people do watch and listen. But I also understand that a lot of people, even patrons, even diehard patrons, can't possibly keep up with all the streams that we're doing and don't have the time to listen to them. And then for people who aren't patrons and aren't invested into the Knights of Last Call, seeing a 2.5 hour, stream on your feed is a tough pill to swallow, for the first time that you go into something. Derek is never being happy with LM's first result, like this list of tangents. It's so on brand. That is true. We were talking about that the other day, about how I asked the LM, like, what do you know about me that I don't know? He's like, you don't like me. You're never happy with my first results. That is totally true. Yeah, that's a good point, Dr. Steve. Also regarding Cthulhu, right? The mechanic that you need to get worse is also what you need to get better, right? In order to learn more about the mythos, to gain access to magic, which is, kind of like the only thing that you have that can maybe potentially fight fire with fire. Call of Cthulhu is big in Japan, would have been the cooler way to say that. Yeah, I mean, you could debate. I mean, there's like corruption or whatever like that, but I'm surprised you bounced off the question of why do you do it when you know you will fail? Seems like it would appeal to you. Well, no, Nakia, because the answer is written, right? We know that my character is going to fail, right? It's just a question of when, how, what will I be able to accomplish before my character's demise? Right? The candle is burning. How much can I get done before it burns out? And that's interesting. But to me, it's a little close-ended. I like not knowing where the story is going to go or where my character's arc is going to go. And while there may be some twists and turns, for the most part, you kind of know where your Call of Cthulhu's character's arc is going to end up, for the most part. Oh, that might be the case, right? Everyone likes a good gamble. So yeah, that's possible. So what's next for Derek in the very near term? Death or insanity? That could be the answer. I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, so where I'm at right now, I mean, if you want like the full financial breakdown, is like, I make my, like when you account for the fees and the stuff and all that other stuff and the taxes, I just about don't cover my bills with the money from the channel. Now you might say, oh, the channel makes that much money. No, I just don't really have that much bills. I have a condo. I have a very low interest rate. When I bought it, I put a lot of money down. My monthly bills are not that expensive. I don't have any debt. I own my car. I paid off my student loans years ago. So I don't have credit cards. So my monthly expenses, I'm pretty cheap otherwise. So my monthly expenses are pretty low. So having very little bills, I mean, obviously I have internet and, you know, the channel does cost me money. I have to pay for Adobe and pay for bots and pay for storage and pay for, you know, premium this and sesh premium that and whatever. They add up into a couple $100 a month. But so I'm at a situation right now where if the channel made a little bit more money, let's say 20%. And when I say the channel, I mean all the income. And right now, let me be very clear. I do not have any sponsorships. I get Patreon, which obviously takes a cut. I get YouTube, which includes ad revenue and super chats. And super chats represent 75% of my total YouTube income. So, you know, if I make, say, $600 a month from YouTube, $450 of that $600 came from super chats. $150 came from the ad revenue that's generated from my videos. And that's partially because we don't get a lot of views and because the kind of videos that we have, advertisers don't pay a lot of money to advertise on. If I was talking about finance or golf or makeup or hair, then that would be, I'd get more money per ad view. They do it called per mil, MILLE. It means per thousand. How much money the advertisers pay to advertise 1,000 times. The going rate is about, for my channel, is about $9. YouTube takes half of that. So I get $4.50 roughly for every 1,000 views I get. Most of my videos, which by this I mean live streams, get between 1,000 and 2,000 views. So on average, if there was nothing else in existence, I would make about $5 to $6 per video from ad revenue. So, and that's like over the course of the entire video's lifetime, but most of the time after the first week or so, people that have watched the video are going to watch the video. So if I do, you know, if I do 10 streams a month, I make about $60 a month from YouTube. And then I probably make another 20 or $30 from just all the old content that people do still go and watch. So let's just call it $100 a month. That's what I make from YouTube ad revenue. Everything else, every single other dollar that I make comes from super chats, tips, and the lion's share, 80% of it comes from Patreon. So for me to scale, I have to figure out a way to increase those revenue sources. Now, how to do that? Well, the tough part is if I extend and expand my content reach, number one, if I wanted to talk about something like that, I would have probably already been talking about it. Not like I'm being a cool hipster here. I'm doing it because that's what I want to talk about. So if I talk about something, it's because I didn't want to talk about it. But also, I don't want to throw, you know, my existing audience to the way, you know, off into the gutter simply so that I could go chase, I don't know, some random bullshit 5e audience. And also, to be completely honest with you, I think that audience is so super saturated. You know, I don't know that it's even worth it. So Because, okay, let's imagine, based on what I just told you, imagine if, you know, I times 5'd my views by doing more popular streams. Okay, so $60 becomes $300. It's more money, sure, but that's not going to make any sort of real difference on a monthly basis. So for me to times 5 my view count and start getting like 10K plus views per video, I would go from $60 to $300. It's just not that much of a shift. It's just not that much of a change. So for me to like seriously, quote unquote, make money with this stream, you know, this channel, I need to pursue other alternatives, and I'm trying to figure out what those are. So yeah, so we've been talking about that. We actually talked about that earlier, is that I wanted to replay Final Fantasy 1 because I used to replay it all the time. I've played that game 20 times, 15 times. We did shorts. They were a complete failure, and they got us nothing, and they weren't even worth the time. And that's saying something considering how short they were. Like, our stuff just wasn't popular in shorts. Like, I'm just not a shorts guy. Like, you know, I don't. Yeah, it was a brutal failure. I'm going to stream Final Fantasy, which one of the reasons I didn't want to go to Twitch is because I was like, I don't do video games. So, but I was saying, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time to play Final Fantasy. Well, now I do have time to play Final Fantasy. So I'm going to run Final Fantasy, and I do have a Twitch account. It is set up. At some point we will stream there, twitch.tv/Knights of Last Call. And, a number of people have said, hey, I've got a free Amazon Prime. Right. So the joke here is that Raid Shadow Legends reached out to us, and I did a poll. I said, I'm not going to say yes unless the patrons say that we should do it. And the patron said, you know, fuck that, get paid, son, or something. That was one of the options. And that was number one. So we reached out to Raid, and we said, yes, we will accept it. And they said, nah, we're good. So we got turned down by Raid Shadow Legends. You know, which is saying something, because they'll do anybody. And they did not want us. They did not want to work with us. So, I mean, we are everything that a gaming company doesn't want to get involved with. We're controversial. We don't care about following trends. We talk for a long time. We don't produce clickbait. We don't target a specific demo. You know, like, we are. We're just not a good, you know. We're just not a good target audience, you know. So I don't blame them for not wanting to sponsor us. Well, I will say, you know, if you, like, we talk about this all the time, but, like, I mean, shout out to them. I'm bringing this up here. This is ignoring any money that they make from their, like, selling their stuff, right? This is Jipeku, right? A lot of people know their map packs, right? This is, like, almost considered, like, the universal style of, like, you know, map packs. And obviously they're putting in their work. Some of these things are pretty cool looking. Do you realize every time they post on Patreon, they make $100,000? Every single time they post on Patreon, they make $100,000. No. That's not per month. That's per map pack. So when you set up Patreon, you can do two ways. You can do it as a monthly subscription, or you can do it on every time we make something, you pay us, You basically set what you're going to pay, and every time they produce something, everybody pays them that much. And they occasionally release a couple packs a month, 2, 3, 4. It's not uncommon. Yeah, Jasari says, and they were releasing a map pack a week for a while there. So they were making, and by the way, they also sell these maps on their website. So I don't know what their income is from there. And I'm not even like, this is not me being jealous. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. That's amazing. Go get it. But like at the end of the day, I mean, these are just, they're just maps. You know what I mean? So, and again, I don't have that talent. But what's interesting, right, is their Patreon, it's $5 or $10 a map pack. The thing is they have 80,000 patrons. So, you don't, when you get that many people, now some of those people are obviously probably not paying members, but when you get that many people, your Patreon, you don't need to, you get a couple of bucks from every single one of them, and you're making, well, $100,000 a week. So, and yeah, no, I mean, they've been grinding for a long time. They deserve all their success. I'm simply saying they had a product that was very scalable. They had a product that was desirable, and they had a product that was truly system independent. Now, granted, do you need that for your avatar game or your root game? No, but let's call it what it is, right? D&D, Pathfinder, Sci-Fi Finder, right? It's all grid-based tactical combat type games. So whether you're playing 3rd edition or 4th edition or 5th edition or Pathfinder 2 or Draw Steel or Daggerheart or DC-20 or Vagabond or Trespasser or Advanced 5th edition or Tales of the Valiant or whatever you're playing, chances are pretty good. Unless you're playing like fucking Call of Cthulhu, you could probably use these things here. So, we had a tip from Kevlar. He said, "Have a drink on me." Have a drink on me. How about have a wheel spin on you? Thank you, Kevlar. So what is the real power of the Palantiri? That's a little too vague. I don't want to get into the real power of the Palantiri, but, the real power of the Palantiri was to enable the elves, in my opinion, to look west and to be reminded of their home in Valinor. So, all right, we'll remove that one. We'll spin again. So Lord of the Rings thing. The Seeing Stones, the black, it's these original crystal balls, right? Can meta currency ruin immersion? Absolutely. Absolutely. For a lot of people, it does. It really does ruin immersion for a lot of people. Because for a lot of people, even though you're playing a game, they don't like to be reminded that they're playing a game, even though they're playing a game. And of course, if you remove the gaming elements, they'll complain. But meta currencies are very gamist. Like, they're very, very gamist. And in my opinion, they usually make for a better game. However, that comes at a cost. And one of the things that that comes at a cost is, number one, it can slow down the processing of the fiction. And number two, it can lead for a lot of people to have a lot of people have breaks in immersion. And this idea that the meta currency exists so that the game cares about the thing that you care about is interesting. Because the problem with a lot of people is that the thing that a meta currency is trying to do, they're like, well, I do that anyways, and I don't need a meta currency in order to, handle my business. And if anything, they find meta currencies to be a restriction rather than an addition. But my take on it is, I sometimes like the restriction. And I know that sounds strange, but I think that restrictions breed creativity. And I think that the meta currency has a lot of value in sort of controlling the pace of a narrative, the narrative flow of a game. But I agree that it could be very immersion breaking. In fact, I think by definition it is immersion breaking. Does that mean outside input from chat or no? So a meta currency would be it is a resource that exists outside of the game fiction. Hero point from Pathfinder 2 is a meta currency. It's not something in the fiction. The characters don't talk about hero points. It's not something that you can point to inside the fiction and say, oh, I have this much hero points. That's not a thing that anybody can really point to. Inspiration is kind of maybe not meta currency, but it's pretty meta currency. But yeah, fear from GMs in Daggerheart, momentum, threat from 2D20 games. Luck. Now, see, some meta currencies actually get away with being meta currencies because they use this pseudo term like luck, and it makes people more accepting of the fact that it is. They feel better about it. They feel like it's more diegetic. They feel like it's more part of the fiction because you're like, oh, yeah, it's a meta currency, but the way that we represent luck is with these luck points. And it works. It is a sleight of hand. It is a magician's trick. It is smoke and mirrors, but it works. It works for a large number of people, like self-confessed cynic here, who says, I'm mostly okay with the gray era meta currencies. Ha, ha, ha. So it works. Now, Earth Dawn is very strange. Yes, Lollipop, because Earth Dawn totally has a meta currency called karma, but it is diegetic and it is in the fiction, and you can point to it and you can say, I have this much karma and I can, do that. So a choice like pushing a roll, is that not meta? It is a bit meta, but it's not a currency. So that's where the difference is. Right. So it's see, this is why Vin could just, Vin, you could just run the show for me from now on. That's totally fine. It is meta, but it's not a currency. Yeah, exactly. Fate, luck, and willpower. Those are my three go-to. Right? These are the fake meta currencies. They're totally meta currencies, but people accept them because they somehow make it a little bit better. But there are some meta currencies that are very clearly like, we are not even trying to explain that this is a in-world thing. This is clearly a gamist construct, and we are using it. I mean, ultimately, the ultimate meta currency, the OG meta currency is... Chat, anybody? Bueller. The OG meta currency. It's really a gamist concept, but it's kind of rooted in the fiction, but not really. Beowulf. Yeah. Kalana. Exactly. HP. I mean, hit points are a meta currency. It's just completely a meta currency. Well, no, because you don't spend experience points, right? But you spend hit points. If you think about it this way, Imagine a different game where it's like, hey, when you get hit with a weapon, a sword or an axe or a hammer, your character is probably going to die or is at least dying. And so, kind of like in Call of Cthulhu, right? When you fail a roll, you can burn luck. Instead, you have a system that says, hey, or look at Blades in the Dark. When you take harm, you can say, no, I'm resisting that consequence. And my character doesn't get shot. Instead, at the last minute, I jerk my body to the right and the bullet just grazes my shoulder. And I'm going to gain stress. And instead of dying from this bullet wound, it's just going to be a graze on my shoulder. Right? That's hit points. Hit points is just a way of saying, hey, it didn't kill me. That mace that hit, we clearly determined it hit me. But I spend this meta currency that kind of doesn't really make any sense called hit points, and now it didn't kill me until I run out of hit points, aka this meta currency, and now when I get hit, I'm dead or dying or whatever the system is, right? So anyways. And then, of course, a lot of people have recognized that hit points are a meta currency, and they so hate meta currencies that they start coming up with other systems to try to work around that, right? So, yeah. When your player uses a meta currency to give the boss a no regrets tattoo. In that case, I just say you win the game. You get to be the GM the most. Yeah, L5R's fatigue is good-ish. I'll say that, Thaddeus. It does feel pretty good. But it's weird because we fundamentally have this assumption that, like, when you roll your attack and you hit, and then the GM describes how you didn't hit, it creates this kind of it kind of creates this dissonance. It kind of creates a bend or flick on the simulation, because for all of our talk, there is, a lot of people are like, hit points represent a lot of things. They represent luck, and they represent divine favor, and they represent skill in turning aside a blade and turning a fatal wound into just a nick. The fact is, when we all play these games, mostly, when we hit and we do damage, we're like, oh fuck yeah! You crush him. You slam your axe into him. Oh my god, blood is everywhere. And like if the GM crits you with the dragon, he's not describing about the GM doesn't hit with the dragon's claw, a critical hit, roll 40 damage, and then go, oh, the claws connect for 40 damage. At the last instant, you dive aside. And you're like, wait, so did it miss? And you're like, no, you took 40 damage. Wait, but you said I dove aside at the last minute. No, you took 40 damage. I mean, if the claws hit you, man, you'd be dead. So wait, did I get hit or did I not get hit? And so most of the time when, if I'm playing and I'm playing, let's say I'm playing D&D or I'm playing Pathfinder 2. If my dragon crits with a claw attack and I'm attacking Bob, I'll be like, Bob, the dragon's claw rakes across your flesh. Armor buckles and bends. Your plate screeches as the claws cut a deep bloody gash across your body. You're left bewildered and exhausted by the critical blow. You stumble backwards, falling to your knees. Am I prone? Well, no, not really. You're actually not prone. But that's what I'm doing. It's a hit point. No. To be clear, I'm not making that up. That's D&D. D&D is and Pathfinder are the games that talk about how that's not what hit points are, and then they come and create things like cure light wounds, and you're like, okay, so what is happening here? Why are you so inconsistent with your game? I don't know. Anyways, thank you for the tip, Kevlar, for the super chat. I should have been a cartographer. Yeah, maybe I could have made some money that way. I don't know. I mean, I feel like these people are cartographer artists, so that they get away with that from that perspective, and they're like legitly good. Like they're not just using assets from another person and then just plopping them onto a map and selling that, right? So, oh yeah, their distribution costs are nothing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I can do. Again, I'm sort of trapped by the. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've learned a couple of things. Also, hello, Agile Monk. We've learned a couple of things. The things that we've learned are actual plays make no money. I hate to say it, but they don't. The only time we've ever made money with an actual play is when we've made a joke of it. All right. When we had the Wheel of Pain and everybody hated it. When we had the Poppet Christmas Carol, the Leshies. Whenever the Wheel of Pain, there we go. So the only time we've ever made money off of actual plays is when we make a farce of it, in a sense, just playing the game, very unpopular. And we have done 3 official actual plays. We did a Pathfinder 2, and then we did a Root. And at the time, after the Wheel of Pain incident, Wheelgate, as it's called, is we decided, and to be clear, how can I say this? Mike, take care, buddy. Have a good Easter. Thanks for stopping by, Mike. And thank you, by the way, Mike, for the conversation earlier. We'll talk. How can I say this? Smith and I, for those of you who've been with us for a long time, this is not going to surprise you in any sort of way. Smith and I love to serious troll, which is where, in order to show how wrong people are or how stupid people are, we'll like go all out.
Shadram tipped $10. I just got here and don't know what
Shadram, you don't know what the wheel is? Well, now you will. Shadram, spin that wheel. If it's Lord of the Rings again, I'm going to riot. All right. How much randomness is too much randomness? The answer is less than you'd think. I actually have been sort of trying to move away from the complete randomness. And we've talked before on this channel about output randomness and input randomness, where a character goes to do something and then you roll a random roll and there's a D20 and there's a huge range of outcomes. I find that to be very unsatisfying. I want to give players more choices in the outcomes. I would rather randomness generate a potential series of outcomes, and it's up to you, the player, to pick one of them, to have some sense of control. Because I think ultimately in TTRPGs, right, real life, I know this better. Well, I certainly know this better than I used to know it. I don't want to say I know it better than anyone, but my life has been completely random out of the way, and my life has been completely random the last year, and it has not felt like I've been in control. It's kind of actually sucked. And I think part of the reason we play RPGs is to feel like we have an impact, like we have control over the vagaries of fate. And so many games just lean so heavily into randomness because lol random funny fun. And yes, Lollipop, I've talked about the decision sandwich with randomness in the middle, where you have players make a decision, we generate some randomness, and then players make some more decisions. And that's the final component of your decision. And potentially even it could be a multi-layered random. Now, the downside is this takes longer. The beautiful thing about just roll the dice and get on with your life is it's quick. But I find it to be very unsatisfying, in that respect. Todd, I imagine you're joking, because the problem with hero points is hero points are just another bite at the apple. It's just another bite at randomness. And that doesn't really solve the problem. It's more of just like punting, and it can actually end up making you feel worse when you get a worse outcome from randomness. So my answer of how much randomness is too much randomness, I think is actually surprisingly low. I actually think that games should have less randomness and not more. Now that being said, I still think random is really important because that's what keeps the game feral. We talk about random character creation. I still think you should be rolling dice to determine outcomes. I'm still a little on the fence about this whole you always hit thing, to be honest with you. I really am. I don't know that I'm sold on that. But I think just I feel like I have no control over the outcome of this situation. It is a problem. Well, so consider this. Okay, Beowulf, consider this. You have already decided you don't like auto hit. Okay, yeah, I'm like I said, I'm kind of there anyways. So when I played Dungeon Time Extreme, which was you could call it 5e, I guess, but we talked about home rules and house rule. This thing was not at all close to 5e, but it had a vague skimming of 5e. And the only reason it had a vague skimming of 5e was because Smith wanted to play 5e and he wanted to pick feats and be a cleric fighter. And I said, okay, Smith, you can pick that. And then I'll build the rest of the game around that. I did the following. Checks, attack rolls, were all against DC 11. you made your attack or you made your check. You didn't have skills. You had a proficiency bonus, and sometimes you made a stat check, and sometimes you could say, I'm going to add my proficiency bonus if your character had a element of their character that made it make sense, rather than having skills. Here's the way the system worked. If you rolled a d20, you add your modifier. If you had disadvantage, you rolled 2d20, you took low. If you had advantage, you rolled 2d20, you took high. If you had double advantage, you automatically succeeded. If you had double disadvantage, you automatically failed. If you had triple advantage, you automatically critically hit. If you had triple disadvantage, you automatically critically fumbled. And that was my system. So if you could stack double advantage, it was a hit. It was an automatic hit. Take care, Thaddeus. It's 1 a.m. here, so we'll eventually slide off. So for me, that was my solution. Because at the point where I'm rolling with 2 or 3 points of advantage, like, why are we rolling? Because 90%, 99% of the time we're going to get a hit anyways. And then on the off chance that someone rolls like a 1-2-1, like that just feels like the worst thing in the world. Why am I even allowing that to be a thing? So that was my rule. If you had advantage, you roll with advantage. If you have double advantage, you just hit. Triple advantage, you crit. My issue isn't with the damage or the auto damage or any of that. My problem is holistic and has to do with the entire concept of what it means to be engaged in a combat in general. And this kind of goes back to like Powered by the Apocalypse principles and Dungeon World principles. But again, in my completely random 5e hack, if you made an attack roll and missed, and if you missed by a lot, like something would happen. Like there was never a roll that generated that led to something in the fiction not changing. And the problem I have with random damage and random attack rolls is they don't really change the fiction. When somebody goes from 80 hit points to 60 hit points, it doesn't change the fiction. You took an action. Hell, you made progress, but nothing about the combat has changed. And I really fundamentally dislike that. It's one of the reasons why I've always loved Dungeon World. And one of the reasons why I thought Dungeon World was not well served by using hit points, and which is why I wanted to use conditions. And now in Dungeon World 2, it is going to use conditions. But they've ruined the game potentially in a different way, which I'll probably do a whole stream about that. Anyways. So, yeah, that's how much randomness is too much randomness, I guess. In a sort of rant sideways. But still hates Dungeon World. Well, you'll really hate Dungeon World 2. You'll really hate Dungeon World 2. What's up, Simon? Good morning. Thanks, Kevlar. Appreciate it. Thanks for the super chats and thanks for hanging out. Travis says +1 for. Do you mean +1 forward or +1 ongoing, Travis? Beowulf, your system is the worst system I've ever heard of in my entire life. Oh my God, Dungeon World 2. What depth of we'll probably do a stream on it. Maybe next week, because there's a lot to break down. Because Beowulf was extremely confused by a statement which I made in our Patreon, in our Discord. We have a Dungeon World channel. And people have been talking about Dungeon World 2, and they've started making these like preview articles. And I've kind of been like ignoring the conversation because I've just been so, busy. And I keep saying like, oh, I need to talk about this, and it's confusing. And then I said something along the lines of, I said, I finally read the article. I need to do a stream about Dungeon World 2. But in short, this is exactly right, talking about the changes that they're making. And just so disappointing in a way that is exactly how I would imagine it would go. / I would have probably done the same thing myself. And Beowulf said, wait, you're disappointed that they did the thing that you would have probably done yourself? I'm so confused. And then I responded and I said, correct. And then Genzo said, that's based. So yes, that's my thought process. They did exactly what I would have done. and that is just the complete wrong move. I agree, Lollipop. A lot of problems with combat would be solved if you could get through 10 or 15 combat rounds per hour. Is Blades in the Dark the only system that I am a fan of these days? No. And I think Blades in the Dark has problems too. So that's not perfect. That Blades in the Dark falls apart once you get characters that have high action ratings, and it has some other issues as well. But no, I like a lot of systems. I mean, I think Fabula Ultima is cool. I still think Pathfinder 2 is cool. It's just I played a lot of it. I'm really excited about Torchbearer. Been playing a lot of that, and I'm excited about the One Ring Second Edition, Avatar Legends. And even though that does have problems, I'm not sure what the problems are with the One Ring Second Edition yet but I'm sure I'll find them. Isn't Chasing Adventure a sequel to Dungeon World by some of the original authors, just not the full team or whatever? No, Chasing Adventures was done completely on its own. However, the person who wrote Chasing Adventure is also one of the co-authors for Dungeon World 2. To be clear, it's not Dungeon World 2nd Edition. It's Dungeon World 2. So they're very much clarifying that this is a different game. Where can I find the article? You can go to dungeon-world.com, and they have a whole list of, I think they've published 3 or 4 articles so far, Simon. So it's dungeon-world.com. Correct. My instincts are terrible and always wrong. And especially when it comes to business, success, making stuff that people like, being tapped into the zeitgeist, being aware of what actual people in this hobby and industry want and how they play. I'm just so off the reservation on that one. Hackmaster combat count. I've told this Jackal this. I said I need to get some people I need to get some volunteers, and we need to set up somehow we need to set up something in Foundry or something VTT or Rune 20, and then we need to do a Hackmaster combat in all of its glory, like with the count up, with the threshold of pain, with the round by with the second by second, count by count movement, the whole shebang. Like maybe we don't have to play like Hackmaster Advanced. Maybe we could play Hackmaster Basic. Like we don't need like the walking to sprinting to running rules or something like that. But yeah. No, God, no. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. I hate everything about that. Except for the opening cinematic, which can make me cry. Because it's so cool to see something that is like so part of my childhood, like visualized in that way. But everything else is terrible. I hate the voice acting. I hate how it's just like Baldur's Gate 3. Like, yes, I understand there was a subplot, if you want to even call it that, about like Tifa and Eris and Cloud. But now it's even more pointless because you know that Aerith is going to die. And like they just turned it into this like huge love triangle thing. It's so much about like Tifa and Cloud, and it's like everything is just like sex and romance and sex and romance and sex and romance. And yeah, it's so stupid. It's so cringe. And I hate the voice acting, and I hate the way that the combat plays out. And I hate that it's the same, but it's different. And I just hate how moody and edgy it is. And it's just the storyline is incomprehensible, as if Final Fantasy VII needed a more complicated storyline than it already had. And yeah, the remake is visually incredible. The plot is so terrible. My buddy played it when he was crashing with me for 6-7 months during COVID. And I watched it occasionally play, and I said, this just is so horrible. This is so terrible. No, Beowulf. That is definitely not the case. The game that did well, that is your game, is Broken Empires. So that is about as far as you could push it and still have it be a thing. And it did its thing, and Trevor had his audience, and the people kickstarted. Even I kickstarted it. That ship has sailed. So cringe. I hate almost all voice acting. So terrible. You'd volunteer to be a Hackmaster guinea pig? All right. We'll get some people together. Is there going to be a post-campaign thing for the Torchbearer Patreon game? I'd love to hear what people have to say with it. Well, we've already lost 3 people from the campaign. Gull left before we could start playing. Tundalis Lord High Summoner. So 3 people have already sort of dipped out. Yeah, I mean, my intention with that is not to run that for 40 sessions. It was to run for 8 to 10, which is what the authors recommend before maybe taking a break and reestablishing and re-essentializing. Basically, I want them to more or less complete their explorations of the halls of foundation, right? The Tall Amroth, and then we'll probably wrap it up. But yeah, I imagine we could maybe do a situation lollipop where we get all, because a lot of, they're being honest. There's no reason why they could go and watch it, but all of the party members have said they haven't watched the other campaigns videos. They're saving it to go back and watch it when they're finished. So hopefully we can have a fun sort of like get everybody into one Zoom call and have everybody on a live stream to sort of do like a panel to kind of get like compare and contrast and different things. I think that could be a lot of fun. Well, right, Lollipop. I've often talked, right, about the problem of people talking over each other and why that's a problem in voice chats versus in person. That is a complicated question, Todd. But the answer is Torchbearer is unapologetically about what it's about. It's about nothing else. And you pays the price. You have some complex interactions and some fiddly bits. And that is not always a price that people are willing to pay. But if you are, it does really well. I went all in. I hope it comes out and gets delivered well. Well, let's hope these tariffs break down before that happens. Agile Monk, I have all the Hackmaster books and content. That's fantastic. And so for the Everlasting River, Derek, remember, I also don't like Baldur's Gate 3. So, and yet, every single person, I think, who has played it, and almost so many comments, I think like almost every person who is like regularly commenting on the videos, who's watching it, has said, I've never felt more empowered to role play, to act in character, to think about my character's personality, my beliefs, my goals. Like, what am I trying to do here? To feel challenged, to really put myself in the shoes of my character, to have social conflicts that really felt like they resonated and meant something while having mechanical crunch. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Agile. It is what it is. It works for what it works for. That's a good point. Technically, people like Beowulf, not Beowulf, Boothby joined saying, I don't think I like this, but I think I should play it. So I don't know how very, very, very self-selecting that is. I mean, some of these people were very like, I don't think I'm going to like this, but I want to give it a try. Derek's running a game. Why not? I've got all these tickets. I'm not using them. Let's go. Fuck it. We ball. If you want to see like cringe comments, it's cringe content. You should watch me play a game like Baldur's Gate 3. I will just be sitting there eye rolling and shit talking that game the whole time. I almost guarantee it. And I'll call it like I see it. If something's cool or if I'm impressed by something, I'll like it. But almost everything about these games I don't like. That's true. But see, like I'm already so negative. I don't want to be like, why would I go do? Sounds like a great stream idea. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be like when people think like they're like, oh, Derek likes to shit on things. No, I'm asked to review and look at games. Sometimes I like them. Sometimes I don't like them. But like, why would I go into something knowing I'm not going to like it? I'd pay so much money I don't have and shouldn't spend to watch Derek play VG3. Now, here's the problem. Normally, I would. People have been saying this for a long time, and normally I would just ignore it immediately. But now, beggars can't be choosers. Okay, Daddy's got bills to pay. Daddy's health insurance runs out. In another month. My severance paychecks only last me through May. At that point, I got to start making some fucking money. So, yeah, things might be different. We'll see how things are in May. Grouchy TT Bear shit. I was like, let's go to the GPT. All right. Chat GPT. Okay. So this is Derek from Knights of Last Call. I want to create a series / sub channel where I play video games like BG3 or others, TTRPGs, or other popular AAA titles. But more often than not, I hate video games and complain about them endlessly and shit on things that most people love and cherish. Give me 10 suggestions for the name / title of this series channel. All right, let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. So here's this. It says that's a great concept. Basically a cross between Red Letter Media. All right, I do like Red Letter Media. And Angry Grognard reacts to modern gaming. Okay, Critical Miss. Roll for Disappointment. That one's pretty good. Roll for Disappointment. This game sucks. Parentheses, and so do you. Not my Final Fantasy. Skip dialogue. Insert coin to cope. That's a humorous jab at modern monetization and player desperation. Grognard mode activated. That one's that's kind of things. Patch it later. Roll for Disappointment sounds great if you're pairing with RC. I did see Roll for Combat said something here. It says, Red Letter Media, I can get Jack Packard to join us. I actually have, I ran into what's his name in Vegas, and I got a picture with him. YouTubers raked in millions of views by playing rage games. Humans are miserable creatures, and we like seeing suffer. Look, I mean, we know that people like seeing me suffer. The things that have made this channel the most money are things like make Derek play a Poppet, make Derek play a Leshy. Those are the only things in this that has ever made this channel money. We can co-stream BG3 together, and you can slam it, and I can say how great it is. No, like the optimism versus the hate. That's the team up that'll bring in the big bucks. That's possible too, Philip. Is rate. I see. The thing is, I don't want to feel negative. I want to enjoy my experiences. What was the name of Euron Smith's original Twitch channel again? Oh man, I don't remember. Let me look it up on. Let me see if I can find it in Gmail. I think it was called like Old Angry Gamers. Man, I don't remember the name of it. No, I don't remember it. We did have one though. Derek and RC with the yin yang that complements each other. Sounds like commercial. Let's let Derek play it. He hates every game. He likes it. Hey, Derek. What was Deep Priest saying? He rates it afterwards. Oh, Grumpy Old Nerds. Yeah, that was the. Oh, there you go. He found it. Yeah, those are pretty good. Those are pretty good names. 10 more focused on. Let's see what else. Let's see what else I could come up with here. Press F to hate. These games were a mistake. Content warning. The content. The fun is optional. Early access to regret. Triple A apathy. Dead inside respawning. Side quest to nowhere. That one's pretty good too. Oh, that's pretty good, Philip. Surely the title should be "What are we even doing here?" That is actually totally reasonable. Anyways, my ChatGPT is already well instructed. Yeah, these are just the stream titles. That's right. Anyways, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, like I said, I'd like to do something to increase the content on the channel in a way that is mostly beneficial for the majority of the people, but I don't know how I can do that because unfortunately I have built a community that is very diverse and has a wide range of interests, and some of my community loves some games and some of my community does not love those games. And so if I go and make a Fabula Ultima blank, you know, only a small portion of my community will be truly interested in that. You know, it's the same thing true with the aforementioned Project Shadow Deep. You know, it maybe I should work on creating a Shadow Dark dungeon title. I saw earlier someone was talking about how they had done some third party publishing for Shadow Dark. I apologize, I don't remember who it was, but they said the bar is very low. I don't know if they were trying to insult me there. They're saying like, Derek, even you could do it. But you know, I mean, you know, not to be like cynical about it, but you know, Shadow Dark is something I don't hate, and it actually is somewhat successful and popular. So maybe that's a good way for me to do something that kind of resonates with a kind of a current zeitgeist. And then yeah. Oh, that was you. Okay, that was it. All right, cool. They were supposed to be motivational. Okay, well, you know, Roomforge, I can never tell. I mean, and by the way, I'm not blaming you. If you were shitting on me, that's cool too. Like, I'm totally here for that. Right, and then when I really want to make bank, you convert the project Shadow Deep to 5e. Now, see, George, you're thinking. Right, it is very smart. It is very opinionated, and that is why it's awesome. But it's also why it's difficult, potentially, to appeal to everybody. Lance gets it. What's up, G&A? How's it doing over there in the wonderful lands of the North? FU player options tier list when. Philip, that's one of those situations where I haven't played Fabula Ultima. Like, I've only run press start like twice. To really, it's hard for me to make those kind of judgments because I don't have a full zeitgeist, you know, or a full grasp of the zeitgeist of the game. My money is still on making dungeons, not system agnostic ones, but instead dungeons that are each made for a suite of systems. Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I don't think that creating a mega dungeon for Shadow Deep and for Shadow Dark and maybe converting it to 5e as a stretch goal or something is a terrible idea. I like dungeons. I talk about them a lot. It's part of my channel's identity. And while I get that not everybody's interested in them, I think most people have a passable enough interest. And normally I would say it wouldn't be worth my time, but I have plenty of time now, you know. And if I could do a Kickstarter, and I mean, I don't know what it would cost me, but you know, let's just say that, you know, the book in its final form was, you know, we'll say $100 for convenience sake, or 60 or 75 bucks. If I got 1,000 people to buy that, you know, to kickstart that and back that, I mean, I have 13,500 subs, you know, on YouTube. I mean, that's $75,000. That's $100,000. I mean, fees and shipping and printing. I mean, we'll eat into that, of course, but if I can do it all mostly myself, then, you know, maybe I end up bringing home at least a small part of the money that I lost when I lost my job. And that could at least kind of help me, you know, go from that. I mean, Kelsey certainly does. When everybody asks Kelsey, like, well, what do you advise? Like, how do you do this? And she always says, you got to build your audience up first. You know, she published 5e stuff for free, and she built up her audience through that and through newsletters and stuff like that. And so a lot of these people, you know, do that. And so from that perspective, I mean, my audience isn't huge. It's not like Professor Dungeon Master has 100,000, 120,000 subs, but this is how I got stuck into this trap. I could do a Kickstarter. See, do you want me to end up like him? Please. Oh. I probably missed it, so I will go back and double check. Hey, Goblins Android.
Goblins and androids tipped $10. Too early to think. What even are we
Well,
doing
what we're going to do is we're going to do one final tangent. Thank you, Goblins and Android, for that tip. You have summoned the Wheel of Tangents. Unemployed in Greenland. I think that's supposed to be a colon. Geek gatekeeping. Why does it still happen? Because of me. I think you should have to earn your geek cred. Damn it. Because some people are phony and some people are fake, and people like me are geek gatekeepers. That is true. I mean, to a certain extent. I get mad at these people who show up to Gen Con, and they are just window shoppers. These people who have YouTube channels, and they're giving people advice about Dungeons and Dragons, and they've been playing the game for fucking 3 years or 4 years, and they don't know anything else about the hobby. They don't know anything else about the game, the system, its history. They have never explored other ideas or venues. They have their heads stuck up their ass, and it's just annoying to me. And I think that there's a certain amount of pride that you should take in this hobby that people just don't do anymore. And I think it causes people to have these terrible takes and horrible views. And, I'm not trying to say that I'm even right. I'm simply saying, learn and learn about the hobby, learn about the history, learn about other games, and make informed decisions. Don't just listen. I've said this before. Somebody even commented recently. They're like, yeah, Derek, they're like, I love that you say, don't listen to these people on YouTube. That includes me. Like, I want you to think for yourself. I want you to check these games out. I want you to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Don't listen to these clueless hacks. And I also don't like these players who are showing up to they treat D&D like it's some sort of like cocktail party and this Dungeons and Dragons themed, cosplaying. You're cosplaying as a D&D player. And I just can't stand it. Yeah, I mean, yes, this is me, old man, shouting at clouds, but why does it still happen? Because of people like me. And to be clear, I'm not like, I think the D&D should stay in the dungeon, and we should just blah, 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 blah. We should be using lead miniatures, and we should never have let women play. Like, I'm not like these crazy dragon foot grognards, right? I love Monster Hearts and Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I love these games. They're great. They're awesome. But I also think that people should spend some time contemplating and thinking about the hobby and really invest in the hobby, not just with their wallets, but with their time, their energy, as well. So that's why it still happens. It happens because some people suck, and I can't stand it. Yes. So again, I have a couple topics. My life's been kind of crazy since I got fired, laid off. But I do remember I said, Vin, now I'm free to stream at 4 a.m. So we should stream together. So you did send me something, and I have not taken a look out yet. Well, we need more mentors for the hobby. I mean, that's definitely, the case. I mean, you're free to, buddy, if you want to. Listen, I spend a lot of time streaming each week, but I also spend a lot of time on my Discord answering people's questions and DMs, and whether they ping me in chat or they ping me privately. People suck, and I can't stand it. Official KLC shirts, t-shirts 2025. Well, they could not suck. They just choose to suck, and that's the part that bothers me. Get in line. Yeah. Gatekeeping exists because it's actually a good thing. Tourists water things down and make things worse. It's only bad when you're too strict or you're a dick about it. Right. And I don't want to be a dick about it. I try to be an open and engaging gatekeeper. in that I encourage people to, to learn and pass the test and get in. My gatekeeping is not a wall that is unassailable. This is an exclusive club and you can't join it. No, there are ways to join it. I'm just asking for you to do a little bit of work, and people won't. And that's when I get a little bit upset. For sure. Awesome. Well, 1:30, I'm going to dip out. This was a lot of fun. We've got 230 some random things left. Let's see what we could have had. We're not doing this one. This is going to be like the best one. We're going to end the stream to let you guys. We'll end on maybe it's another Lord of the Rings. Wait, what the hell? All right, this thing cannot be actually random because we literally had that one before. It's totally rigged. Totally rigged. It's totally rigged. Maybe I broke it. Oh, all right. That's a good. What mechanics should return or stay gone? I will answer the last one very quickly. Strength limits to women. that should stay gone. It's a fantasy game. I don't care about your biological essentialism. It's stupid. It was stupid then. It's stupid now, but even more stupid when we're talking about a fantasy game. So there you go. That mechanic should definitely stay gone. All right, everybody. That is going to do it for me. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and hanging out. I hope you all have a great Sunday. If you celebrate Easter, I hope you enjoy some time with the family. Like I said, it's going to be our family's first major holiday without my dad, and that's going to be really hard and very bittersweet. But I bought a honey baked ham, and my sister's making some pies, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier, and hopefully we can get through that. But I want to thank everybody for being so awesome and supportive for me tonight, but also in just general the last couple of weeks / months. It's just been a very difficult and trying time for me, and I really appreciate everybody who makes this community a priority, not just for me but for other people. I mean, there have been plenty times where people have come out and supported other people, and it just means a lot to me to be part of this community and it be such a strong community. So shouts to Thaddeus, Mike, Boothby, Rick, Scott, D Priest, Whoopelstein, Scott again, Lollipop, Self-Confessed Cynic, Nakia, Lollipop, Kevlar, Self-Confessed Cynic, Shadram, and Golems and Androids. We were all over the boat today as everybody spun the wheel of tangents and threw their support in there, and I really, really appreciated it. Well, you all mean a lot to me, and so it's reciprocal. And again, if you can make it out to one of these gaming conventions, Laughing Outlaw was talking to me today about like how do we get NightCon to happen? We have to wait. We have to schedule it for when Vin's in the country, obviously. But I'd love to hang out, meet with you guys in person. If you're ever at Origins or Gen Con, let me know, and you can join the crew. I try to make this community not about me. It's about the games. It's about gaming. And, a lot of the people in my community are better, more experienced, especially in certain games in certain areas. And I take my cues from them. And I've learned a lot from this community, maybe even more so than they've learned from me. So I really appreciate I just consider myself part of it, So I thanks a lot to everybody, and hopefully have a great Sunday. I won't rule out that I might be on Sunday night. We'll see how it happens. Time is meaningless. Lunchtime doubly so. I'll see you next time on Night's the Last Call. Good night, everybody. Peace.